All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC 317, Topuria versus Oliveira, taking a quick look at UFC Nashville, and going over the nominees for ESPN's Fighter of the Year, the ESPYs. To do all of that with me, as always, the Ohio player, my good friend, my co host, and the man who willed Josh Van's victory into existence, Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
Dude, I'm telling you, after what I was able to accomplish with my words on Monday, hey, Saturday was real nice. I tell you that. So we'll get into it. But man, it was definitely a good weekend. I'm very happy for International Fight Week. That was definitely something to live up to. I'll give it that.
If you will it is no dream, and that is certainly the case here. So, yes, we will get into all of that. We got a lot to go over today. So, if you are new to the show, we're going to be going over each and every fight from 317 and all of those other things that I mentioned. If you have anything that you want to talk about that's not pertaining to what we're discussing at the moment, feel free to throw it into the chat. Remind us a little later in the stream, and we will come back to it. But to get this thing started, UFC 317, Topuria versus Oliveira took place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada for International Fight Week. It was kind of interesting this go around because, like, obviously we had a lot of things changing and things that we thought might happen, which didn't happen. Obviously, John Jones and Tom Aspinall, Topuria and Makhachev, a lot of things that might have been maybe more grandiose for International Fight Week did not come through. So, Chase, did you think that this event did International Fight Week justice?
I actually think it did live up to it. I mean, whether or not it was like devastation kind of deal. I mean, it was definitely a polarizing event to say the least. I'll go give it that.
Yeah, no, I think that the quality of the event overall was certainly of the caliber of International Fight Week because that's supposed to be like the marquee. This is where we show off our what we really have as an organization. The big guns come out for International Fight Week, and I mean, it maybe there could have been a couple of things that might have made that a little bit better, but
In that context, oh, we were lacking. If this is supposed to be the best of the best, I mean, this is the marquee matchups, brother. No, this was maybe
right. Well,
we had maybe one of them.
yeah, well, so I mean, yeah, there you go then. So yeah, it's like if you're looking for star power for International Fight Week, we maybe got a little bit of that, not as much as we could have had, but as far as quality goes, I definitely think that it was of the caliber that you want for that.
I mean, the stars showed out. We had a lot of UFC fighters in attendance. We had a lot of Hall of Famers. We had a lot of people from other sports, NFL players, baseball players, maybe. I don't know what other sports they were playing out there, but they were definitely in the crowd. So there was something that people came to see.
Sure. A lot of people internationally traveling to see Ilya Taporia do his thing, and I guess a lot of them were very happy. So, of course, we're going to go over that in detail. Starting this thing off before we get to the first fight, did want to mention that we only had one weight miss on this card, but it was a bit of a major one because it was in the what would have been the first fight of the event. It was Christopher Ewert. It was going to be fight. He was going to be fighting Jackson McVeigh. Ewert missed weight by 10 pounds, causing that fight to be canceled. So, not a huge loss as far as the fight goes, but a huge miss as far as Christopher Ewert
He
goes.
did get cut, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. Yes, that is a
Yes.
crucial point of it. Is he tried to show up on debut, lied that he could make it, probably could not make it clearly, and then they were like, "Yeah, you're not even worth it. So just get up out of here."
Yeah, kind of wild to have your big opportunity, and I mean, it almost reminds me of like one of those like the like American Greed kind of scammer type people. It's like they overpromise, and then or like Firefest. We've talked about Firefest before, where it's like you're already in now, so you got to try to make it work some way or another, and you get there, and then it's just like, sorry,
Yeah.
what am I supposed to do? Well,
100%. No, I
yeah.
agree with you. Yeah, I mean, I also wanted to make the crucial point that, this guy gets cut after missing 10 pounds, but Miktabet he's not made weight 2 times in his division by 10 pounds, and he's just okay. And I get it. He's a big player in the game, but double standards here. I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah, no, and a good word to the wise as far as fighters go, make weight, you know? Not everybody's going to be as, lucky as Miktabek, I mean, not everybody's gonna be as unlucky as Ewert was, but, you know, somewhere in the middle you fall, and any which way you cut it, it's not good when you miss weight.
To be honest, though, setting a good standard, don't come in here and fuck around, get up out of here because we have a lot of people who do miss weight, occasionally, which shouldn't even happen more than once kind of deal. You should get it down after two times, you should know that there's an issue and you should figure it out.
Right.
But setting the standard early, like, yo, if you come in here and you're missing weight, I mean, 10 pounds is obviously egregious. Maybe if it was a pound or two, like on short notice, yeah, like cool. But nah, this is, I don't know.
Well, and the other thing, one last note that I did have about this, because we were talking about this on the last card with people missing weight, is that he is the unfortunate victim of this being a pay-per-view, which with a lot of fights that were, solidly locked in, and two, the fact that they like it didn't matter if the fight got cut. You know what I mean? Like you had a lot of like names on here who you knew weren't going to miss weight, so it wasn't like there was a lot of weight misses to begin with. Like if they had been on the Macy Barber card, then they might have figured it out. They might have made it a catch weight and moved it up a weight class, whatever. They might have tried to accommodate that because of the way that the rest of the card was. But you had every other fighter on the card make weight, and you were fighting. Essentially, it was a nobody versus a nobody as far as the sport is concerned. No disrespect to the guys, but coming into this, no one knew who they were. So it's like you don't have any of the chips in your favor. The cards in your corner kind of thing. And then also when there's no need for them to try to accommodate you. So, you got to be careful with those weight misses because not every card's going to be like the Macy Barber card where you get a little leeway.
I actually think it's important to bring up the word accommodation and not to keep a rant going before we start the card. But B brings up a good point. Hamza, the double standard here again. He gets a whole card flipped around because he misses weight, but other people just get cut straight away. So
Yeah, there are levels to the game, levels to the star power too. So indeed, so just wanted to bring, put that out there as the starting point of all of this. We'll get into the first fight here, but of course we got a couple people who showed up on time for the show tonight, so appreciate all of y'all. Rick Allen, Mank, Beeb, of course, and E-Money J and John Dong. Appreciate all of y'all. Thank you very much for hanging out. Oh, and I see Big Onk down there as well. Appreciate you
hey, Rick
guys.
Allen, I just wanted to let you know I see you.
we
Everybody else, go on.
Everybody sees Rick Allen. He is unmissable. But all right, let's get into this card a little bit here. Starting the thing off with Jonathan Janice versus Alvin Hines. Hines, of course, also a newcomer in on short notice, 18 days to be exact. What did you think of this fight and Mr. Hines' performance?
I'm just very happy that I decided to stay away from a lot of the prelim matchups that I just wasn't sure about. I did not think Jonathan Deniz. I mean, I did think he was going to finish, but I figured something was going to be interesting about this matchup. This Alvin Hines dude, he had a little bit of aura. I don't know what to tell you about him, but the Goozy came in ready to play, and he took a lot of shots, took a lot of damage. But I tell you one thing, he never stopped walking forward. So shout out to him because he really is game. I really like him. I'm a big fan now.
Yeah, no, same. I thought that he fought in a very entertaining fashion. As far as heavyweight goes, you're automatically going to be expecting a certain maybe a level of grit versus a level of technicality, right? Like, you're not going to be necessarily be getting like the most world-class technical striking, but you want to see guys with like grit, determination, and heart. And I think that he certainly showed all of those things because that first round, he was getting touched up, man. I mean, Jonathan Janice was really bringing the fight to him. And to his credit, I mean, he took some heavy shots, a lot of damage he was wearing on the face, and he kept muscling forward at every turn. I think the biggest problem for him was that it looked like he was trying to get this thing to the ground, and that did not happen. And he paid the price for that on the feet.
Yeah, no, for sure. Jonathan Deniz. I know we all love an underdog story. That's why we wanted to start with Mr. Goozy here and give him some props because he did again short notice came in and showed a lot of grit, a lot of heart. But Jonathan Deniz, I mean, he is a credentialed kickboxer, if I'm not mistaken. So he did look like it in this performance, and he put on a pretty damn good showcase on the striking. He definitely should have finished him. That's the only downfall you can say, especially at heavyweights. Holy shit, the fact we cannot get a heavyweight finish, like it's ridiculous right now. This should have been it, but Guzzi, he's got that chin, man, and he got rocked a few times. But like you said, he tried to get the takedowns, and it did not work. Jonathan Deniz actually looked like he developed a skill, but I think Guzzi is just also somebody that maybe doesn't have the wrestling that could, get this level of skill down, kind of deal. So I think we're still in store for another wrestle fuck from Jonathan Deniz' opponent.
Yeah, well, and in both ways, I would say on that because as far as Hines goes, like it looked like he kind of got discouraged from the wrestling pretty quickly. So I don't know if maybe he's got more in store for that he was not able to show. So maybe there might be a time where, if he's able to at least get him up to the cage and clinch him up a little bit, that gives him a little more confidence to keep shooting or whatever. Cause it's like he went for a couple long rangey shots that like it was pretty obvious he wasn't going to get him. And I was like, well, I mean, you just need to tighten that up just a little bit, get a little closer to make that happen. But he sort of went away from that game plan altogether. So maybe there's more to that than he was able to show here. Or maybe he just got, it was like, I can't keep going to something that's not working in my debut performance kind of thing. But yeah, you're right on both sides because Janice could also probably, get taken down by someone who's going to try a little bit harder, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think what's also key to note is Jonathan Deniz didn't show the kill switch in this. Like I said, Guzzi got rocked a couple different times where he was kind of chicken legged and he was, on the skates. But Deniz played it way too safe. And what unfortunately happened is he let his opponent walk away as a fan favorite. So he stole the spotlight at the end of the day because he showed so much grit. And these are what we love out of some fighters, just people who are not going to give up on themselves and go ahead and just throw it all at the fire. And I think that was really important. Jonathan Deniz is just probably another kickboxer. I mean, you tell me what's different, but I mean, who has more credentials, Jonathan Deniz or Junior Tafa, the glory kickboxer? I don't know. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're making a good point because I do have as a note here that this was a fairly standard kickboxing performance for Janice. I mean,
yeah.
Hines made it a lot more competitive than it had any right to be for a debut fighter. The real problem that I saw with Hines in this fight, and I think it really probably was most likely because of just the power of Janice, like that he felt early, was just that Hines started a lot of his shots in addition to shooting for takedowns at far distance. He started a lot of his striking a little too far out of range as well. And, you get punched in the face and start looking like you're in a horror movie early. I can understand it. I'm not saying that he was wrong for doing it, but like, if you're going to be throwing like bomb shots, you got to make sure that you're at least close enough to get, if not the first one, then the follow-up shot. So, I think that he has a lot of great attributes that you want to see out of a heavyweight competitor, but he needs to tighten the game up just a little bit if he's going to hang with the guys in the UFC. And it's certainly possible to do that. And like you said, he developed a little bit of an aura for himself from this performance. So I'm sure we'll see him back. And if he does those things, then maybe there's a future for him in the UFC.
Yeah, I talked about a great performance from Denise, but I honestly, I maybe backtrack just a little bit. It was good, maybe not as great as I remember, because I mean, if Guzzi took around in all three judges' eyes, I mean, on short notice, you give him a game plan next time and 6 months of training. This could be a little more interesting, because it wasn't necessarily, it was a beatdown because Alvin was wearing the damage, but he's 7-1, and the commentary actually brought it up that he's early in the game, doesn't have the calluses built up on his skin, and yeah, the damage did look like he was getting his ass whooped, but the striking was not as necessarily glaring as like, wow, he's getting outstruck when you look at the numbers here. So I don't know. I think Alvin, great future ahead of him. Heavyweight prospect. I love it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought up commentary because one other thing that I had here that I thought was interesting during the walkout, they had mentioned they didn't go into detail, I think intentionally, but I guess Hines had a little bit of a checkered past, maybe some run-ins with the law, and apparently was facing a charge that carried a sentence of 14 years to life at one point. So I don't know what that charge was for or what his potential crime was, but I guess that Alvin Hines, this dude who was wearing his nice little dad glasses to the weigh-ins, and everybody was kind of clowning on him for, he might be a legitimate gangster in disguise over here.
Yeah, I don't know. He also gives me the kind of look of somebody who did something that 14 years would make me think is maybe. I don't even want to go into what I think.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you on that. That's like, yeah, you take a look at it, you hear that, and you're just like, oh, all right, yeah. There's a couple of conclusions you might draw from it, but maybe best to just not.
yes, continue on.
Indeed, no, that's pretty much all I had for this fight. I thought that it was pretty competitive between these two guys, both landing pretty good shots at times. Aside from that round one damage for Hines, he had a pretty good second wind there later on in the fight. And Janice sort of slowed down a little bit, made it a little bit more even towards the end. So Janice winning this fight is certainly the right conclusion, I thought, but Hines, raising his stock with this debut.
100%.
All right. Well, then there you have it. Let's move on to the next one here. Nico Price versus Jacoby Smith. Of course, Jacoby Smith, the biggest betting favorite in UFC history, they said on the broadcast. This betflation is beyond real at this point. We've talked about it time and time again on this show. These inflated lines are killing sports betting, killing MMA betting, people.
Yeah, no, this one was definitely ridiculous because obviously everybody is putting down on that minus 300 KO line for him, which is nuts.
The
And
amount of
then,
people who were
yes,
so sad about this fight, I'm sure was immense. There were a lot of angry people with this one.
well, what's also key to note is this is everybody's worst nightmare, and it can happen to any prospect. It just also happened to happen to the biggest favorite in all of Vegas history, or whatever you want to say. But Jacoby Smith had a great first minute, two ish, and then he started to slow down a lot, like a lot. And then you're like, oh, fuck, no way. Did the biggest favorite ever just blow his gas tank? And now he's toast. And that was definitely the moment that we were thinking about. Not really too much to say because this was two tired men who apparently didn't show up to fight 3 rounds because both of them were exhausted. Nico should have known better. He should have been able to be in the positions that were a little grindy and conserve a little more energy than the dude who's on his first, second, whatever you want to say it is. But what's unfortunate about this matchup is that Nico Price just decided to let him submit him. He just decided to give him the choke. I don't know what I mean, he was obviously tired, but he definitely did not have any intention to let him he turned over and just let him have the choke and then just tapped out. Like it wasn't really, I don't know, it was crazy.
Yeah, well, the whole sequence started with like a mistake on Nico's part because I mean I thought he was winning that round up until the sequence started, but to walk it through, Smith starts everything off with that nice slam at the very beginning, just starts mauling. Elbows were really on point and a lot of top pressure for that whole, pretty much the entire first round. So Nico even making it to the second round was a little bit of a surprise, but Nico starts landing in the second. And I was like, oh, okay, we might actually have a little bit of a fight on our hands here. But Jacoby ends up grabbing the leg and he has that really nice push takedown, which I was like, those types of elements of awareness are what is going to propel you forward, because being in the moment like that, even Nico is not the fastest guy. So like, yeah, you could say, okay, it's not like it's going a mile a minute and he still caught it. But like just even having the instinct to be aware enough to say, okay, if this guy throws a kick, I'm going to be able to do what Jacoby Smith ended up doing. I was like, good instincts there. But so the ending sequence starts with a little bit of a mistake by Nico. He tries to roll through the back control that Smith had, and then he ends up rolling right onto his back with Smith on top of him. So quick transition from Smith to the back again. And then, yeah, that RNC just was a quick sink, and the tap was very quick as well. So I don't know if Nico necessarily was like letting it happen, but I think it was just like, oh, I'm here. Oh, this is happening. Damn, I'm done. You know what I mean? He just like he became toast very quickly. And Smith obviously is a pretty strong guy. Got some good upper body strength. So that crank was tough.
Yeah, I definitely don't know anything else to say about this one other than Jacoby clearly gassed very, very early. He looks like Aljamain Sterling. He did get a submission and move forward. I don't know anything else. I mean, Nico Price, we obviously knew it shouldn't have been the dog numbers that he was, but I mean, at the end of the day, Vegas knows what they know. So they did win, other than a minus 3,000 fucking favorite, whatever you
Yeah,
want to say.
and anybody who had Smith by submission is a lot richer today because of it, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But
100%.
yeah, the only other thing that I had was shout out to Big Unc with this the Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, this dude was starting off this massive Joe Rogan glaze fest that a bunch of these fighters were on during this event.
Oh God, I remember now. Yeah, I remember sitting here saying, "All right, well, he's annoying already." Like,
Yeah, I mean, like, it was look, everybody likes Joe, right? I mean, Joe Rogan is a legend and we all love him and stuff,
it's a
but
little
like
played out though. Like,
that's kind of how I
liking
felt.
Joe Rogan is like out there. For Jacoby Smith to like Joe Rogan, it's like, aren't you like 24? Like, you're like my age. I don't even like tune into him that often. That's a little tinfoil hat kind of community.
Well, I think that it's more of like, I want to get on the show. I think people are trying to raise their star power by getting that Joe Rogan appearance.
Yeah, Jacoby Smith. I'll see you on JRE, buddy. We'll see. Two
Well,
years.
exactly. That's the point. Is that it's like maybe a little bit early for that. So it's like, yeah, you can be happy that you're getting interviewed by Joe Rogan in the octagon after getting a nice win. That's cool. But it wasn't. I thought it was laying it on a little thick. Is all I'll say about that.
It wasn't laying alone thick, dude. It was annoying as hell, and it was because I'm trying to think of he was avoiding the question. That's also kind of the thing. Is like I remember thinking like Joe Rogan Joe Rogan was asking him a question and he just kept saying Joe Rogan, and I was like, that was a pretty good question. I wish you would have answered it. Like, did you actually feel like you were threatened because you gassed out very early, Joe Rogan? Like, oh my god,
Yeah, it's one way to sidestep, right?
yeah, it was definitely nuts.
True. But, a win's a win and a good win for Jacoby Smith. So congratulations to him. You got anything else for that one?
No, but I want to apologize because I'm going to run to the restroom where you set up the prelims because that was the end of the early prelims. I don't know if you guys knew we had two fights on the early prelims. So go ahead, set us up real quick.
You got it. Can do. All right, everybody. Well, while Chase is running to the bathroom, we got to when he comes back, you need to all in the chat. If you're hanging out, you need to be giving as much shit to this guy as possible because before every episode, it's a little inside baseball for you on last week's fights. Before every episode, Chase and I get together a little bit earlier. We talk through what we're going to do on the show, and then we specifically have a time that we break to go to the bathroom so that this type of situation does not happen. So now that he is in the bathroom, I need everybody in the chat to just be spamming Chase, you suck. So, go ahead and get that started. And now that that's out of the way, we can start off this next fight here. I'll bring in the info here. This is Terrence McKinney versus Vyacheslav Borshov. This fight was very, very quick. This was a extremely fast submission, and that's really all that there is to say about it. So I guess we're just gonna have to sit here and wait through Chase's bathroom break. He picks the one fight that there's really not anything to talk about. I mean, I guess you could say that Borshov going in and getting his neck snatched like that was pretty crazy, but I guess we'll have to hear what he has to say about it. There you
All
go.
right.
Perfect
I am
timing.
I am hoping you guys are ready to hear what I have to say about this because I'm going to go ahead and glaze a certain person because I genuinely don't trust his opinion, and I should. I really should because I remember seeing it in the Discord in a passing comment, and I remember typing, did I see someone say McKinney sub earlier in the week? And nobody claimed it, but I remember going back and finding the receipt. So shout out Mank MMA, the elite in the Discord. He knows fucking ball. Round one sub McKinney. He called it 7 days ago. This dude knows what he's talking about sometimes. If he's not blabbering like a fool, he knows that with one attempted, one strike landed, two attempted, Terrence McKinney can go ahead and finish Vladimir Borishev. And I am just so fucking happy that he knows what he's talking about. And I know this dude. This is a close friend of mine. He knows ball. Like I'm just, yeah, it is so crazy that I doubted Terrence McKinney's finishing ability. Like I really said 23 fights and there's never been the bell. Someday it's got to break. Someday it's got to be now. I got to be betting against it because that's good money to be made. And I thought Borashev was gonna be the guy to be able to point fight his way and navigate not getting taken down, but he literally throws one kick. Terrence McKinney trips him, gets him down, shoots the Darce, flips him over in the guillotine. One of the funniest finishes because Borashev is completely fucked and he's doing the bicycle kicks and he's just fucking flopping and flipping and he's not getting out. So he taps. And shout out Borashev, but it's time to have the discussion. He is one of the worst grapplers in the lightweight division. Like, holy shit, this dude gets stay. He's
Well,
not great when it
I
comes
mean,
to
I think
rolling.
just to play devil's advocate a little bit, I mean, Terrence McKinney had that thing cinched up in a real way very, very quickly. So, oh yeah, by the way, thank you, chat.
Yes,
Yeah, but no, so I mean, like, to McKinney's credit, yes, he is constantly Mr. Round One. I think that should just be his
yes,
nickname from now on, period. Is he's just Mr. Round One. No matter what, win or lose, it is going to be in round one. And so I mean, he found the neck in a way that was just so goddamn quick. I don't think anybody really like expected it to go down like that, including Borshov. So I mean, I gotta be a little bit lenient on him with that one, just because when he realized that his neck was snatched, it was already too late. And
yeah,
it was a pretty harrowing visual, like you mentioned there with those legs. That was hard to watch, man. Those legs kicking out, like it's like when a bug is on its back.
yeah, right. No,
Oh
dude,
yeah,
but this one was it was unfortunately I don't know, man. It was unfortunately so quick because here's my experience. I'm on ESPN Plus, mind you, everybody. I'm not just sitting here watching the pirated fucking streams like a degenerate. I'm watching this on ESPN Plus. I pay a monthly subscription to get access to watch these fights. The stream cuts out. I come back after a refresh. Terrence McKinney already has the fucking neck and subs him. And it was like one of those, unfortunately, it happened in 55 seconds where the internet didn't catch up quick enough to hit the refresh. So when I come back, he's already got the Darce. He's already locked it in. He's already flipped him over. It was just unfortunate. But Terrence McKinney, yeah. If you guys want to get very technical with the terms, Black Hamzat is what we are going with in the Discord because he really is just a first round menace. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and kill or be killed, because we've seen McKinney go down in the first round as well. So,
yes.
I can certainly respect the fact that this guy really does put it all out there from the get. You hear me talk about often, people starting quickly, being first. That's something that I really appreciate with fighters, and I think can go a long way towards securing your victory. There's a perfect example in human form right here in Terrence McKinney. You go out there and get what you want done quickly, and then it's a quick night at the office. Go get your win, get your bonus money if you do it well enough, and that's a great way to conduct yourself. So I mean, sometimes it's going to be a little bit more dangerous than others, of course, because he has been finished in the first round too. But at the same time, that's just the name of the game. So it's like, if you go out there really with the determination to do what you need to do, then good things can happen. And McKinney is a great example of that. So shout out to him.
There's a reason he's a fan favorite. I mean, not just because he's very active on social media and does interact with a lot of the community, but he does fight like somebody that you would want to root for. I mean, not just somebody who does lose oftentimes when you don't want him to, but that's oftentimes every fighter. He does go out there and say, "We are gonna fight." And it's gonna be a fireball that you're gonna see, and I do respect that out of him. So shout out to him.
Yeah, and I think the last thing that I want to ask then, because of this conversation, is when do you think the ceiling arrives for these round ones for him? Because I mean, there's got to be a time where somebody's going to be able to take him into later rounds, and then what does it look like thereafter?
You got to imagine that the matchmakers at this point they know. They gotta know. Only match him up with somebody that's gonna go out there and fuck with him in the first round. Because if they don't, they know they're missing out on a huge opportunity. Because you got to look at Rebovix. I mean, up until after the fact that he knocked out Terrence McKinney, he's been somebody that goes to decision with a lot of people. I don't know why the matchmakers just know that Terrence McKinney can get finished by him, or Terrence McKinney can finish Borishev, but they do. So it is what it is. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, we live in an era where I'm genuinely concerned that time travel exists for fucking numbers in Vegas. Like, how do they know that he's going to sub him in round one? I don't.
I guess the same way Elite knew.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, dude is out here in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Well, shout out to all of those future time travelers coming back and getting that money off of a nice submission by Terrence
Mhm.
McKinney.
True.
But yeah, another good performance for him. Let's move on to the next one here. Tracy Cortez versus Viviane Araújo. One of the lower points of this card, I would say, but not terrible even in and of itself. I mean, I thought that this was a pretty decent fight, even if it was on the lower side of the entertainment value. What'd you think?
I actually think I maybe disagree because that my initial instinct was to say after the first two fights, this card really picks up. But this one was actually pretty. I mean, I did have money down on this one because Tracy Cortez is somebody that, a lot of people want to believe that I bet on her because she's, obviously she's gorgeous. She's one of the lookers in the UFC. But genuinely, I do believe she has a skill set. She's beaten some really good names in the division. And if she gets her shit together and they stop sucking off Rose, I mean, she might have an opportunity here. And she comes in here and did exactly what I figured she would do against a 38-year-old opponent. And it was decently competitive for moments where I was like, oh, if she loses this position right here, she'll lose the round. But she was able to capitalize, and she's a lot stronger than she gets credit for. Um, I'm not really sold on the striking yet. It doesn't really lead me to believe that she's gonna be, some champion because of her striking, but she does have the grappling control. She knows how to maneuver the positions where she'll flip over into top. She knows how to use low. Listen, I've talked about it before. It's the thighs, guys. She knows how to use the lower extremities, and those get positions. And when you can move, when you can do more than just a lock, and you can step over, or you can hold the leg down where you pry the other one and get over into full mount or get over into side control. It's very useful. And Tracy Cortez is one of these people that is very, very good at it, male or female.
True. Yeah. I mean, she really is just a brawly kind of chick is the way that I see her. Like she really just muscles these girls around, pressure on, clinch, push the pace. That's the name of the game for her. And then when she does get it to the ground, she is decently skilled there. I mean, it's like it would have been nice for her to get a finish. I mean, that's the same for any fight, of course. But like as far as actually just keeping control and making it the fight that she wanted it to be, I thought she did a pretty good job of that. Because I mean, in round one, Araujo had some like decent success, but still ended up getting, in the guillotine at the end of the round. She's like has both hands out. Like thought that was a pretty funny image. She's just essentially waiting out the round. Like fuck, I'm just gonna have to sit here for a
Yeah.
minute. But then second round was kind of a little bit boring. I thought Araujo had another very brief moment on the ground at the end of it, but it wasn't anything that was going to lead to any kind of finish or anything like that. And then I thought it was interesting that Araujo, once she started knowing that she was pretty much losing the fight altogether, starts complaining about Tracy greasing her gloves. I don't know what that was
There
about.
was
That
there
was
was a key
interesting.
to note. You missed the key note there. It
Ah,
was greasing on the inside of her gloves. So Ayuja was basically confirming she's fishing inside of Tracy Cortez's gloves. Yeah, that was a key point because DC's like, she says there's grease inside of her gloves, and it's like, and maybe that's not what happened. Maybe that is what happened, but I think that's very funny to know if that is the case. Tracy Cortez is somebody who is a very talkative person. If you talk to her in the fight, she will definitely talk back. So she's in top control, and they're definitely having a conversation. Um, whether they're understanding each other, Portuguese and a little bit of Spanish, whatever you want to say, they were talking a little bit, and they understood that it was a little uh there was a little heat at the end of the fight, but she knew she was losing. Obviously, she had to try to pull something off. So I agree, it was fluky, and Tracy Cortez was dominating this fight. This was a good one.
yeah, yeah, definitely a dominant performance overall for Cortez, and a little bit of a frustrating one, I think, for Araujo in the end. Even though, honestly, I really don't know exactly what she was frustrated about. If it was coming from anything aside from herself. I mean, there
Mm.
was, grease on gloves. Give me a fucking break. So hopefully that wasn't what she really had in her mind. But either way, it's like she might have just been grasping for a couple of things to latch on to because she was really a little bit mad at herself. Which in the end, that's
Too
where
old for that though. Like, damn, you're a veteran in the sport.
you make a good point with that. Exactly. This isn't like somebody, coming in fresh where, they're throwing hissy fits or whatever. Like, that's like Vanessa Demopoulos behavior. You know what I mean? Like, and Vanessa has been proving herself to be someone who I don't feel is of the caliber of the UFC at this point. At 38 years old, you should be well past those types of games, and you need to put the blame where it belongs, which is you and your performance. I mean, if you see that Tracy is out there using her thick thighs to push you all over the cage, then you need to do something about it. That is your
Mhm,
job, is to go in there and figure out a way to not let your opponent get their way.
mhm.
So, the blame needs to go in the appropriate place, and that unfortunately is on you in this one, Viviani. So, that is about what it is, and when it comes to that fight.
Well, I think there's actually one last thing because there's something that DDP there's a meme of DDP talking about there's people online that overcalculate what he does. And he's like, dude, I don't do the whole footwork, I just go out there and punch. Like I'm just here to get in your face. And it's not about the overcalculation. It's about the instincts. It's like when the fight comes to you, are you able to adapt to what's given? And I think Tracy Cortez, other than the Rose fight, which I don't think was the worst performance, but Rose, obviously, they give her fucking every round for everything she does. But Tracy, she does have good fight instincts. When the fight gets close, we grab and we trip. When the fight is at distance, we jab, we pop. I think she does have good fight IQ caliber that is high level, but for somebody that's been here as long as she has, I'm still not seeing the jumps in the skill that I'm needed to see yet. Like she should be for somebody who's a brawler type of girl, like you said, like she should have the striking down. Like she should not be getting popped up on the jab by Vivian. Like she should have the head movement on a swivel, but that's just my opinion.
No, I agree. Honestly, I've never been. But this is, I think, why, like, when I say like she's just a kind of a brawly, muscly kind of fighter, like that's sort of what I mean. It's not, she's not technically proficient in the striking, but she will go out there and just out tough her opponent. So
Yeah,
it's like,
but shouldn't we have seen that development by now? Like that's
yes,
so
yes,
she does have
absolutely.
great base skill, but the ceiling, it feels like we're already at what we're gonna see for Tracy.
No, I agree. Yeah, and I think that that's a bit of a problem. And I think that, you keep bringing up Rose, like she's going to run into that when she fights Rose or anyone of the caliber of Rose Namajunas. So it's
Mhm.
like, you do have to blossom a little bit more in all areas. I mean, like, we talk about the mixing of the martial arts. Like the person who has the greatest advantage is going to be the one that has the skills in all areas. Like she has a black belt and she does use her jujitsu pretty well. Your striking needs to match that. Just
Yeah.
get it to that level. And it's really, I would say at this point, like based on her experience, like just drill it. Like really, like take the time to, like to work it out with your striking coach
Stop
and
doing the fucking tequila ads. Like, ugh,
stop doing the tequila ads. It's funny that you'd mentioned that one specifically because I had another person talk to me about that ad, and
where her ass is all out and the shit. Like, dude, it's crazy. I think I saw this maybe probably on Pluto TV because guys, I'm a big fan of Pluto. But the tequila ad with Tracy Cortez is dead ass her like holding the glass, but the camera's like panned on her ass. So like it's like shit like that. So
yeah, she's certainly very proud of her assets, of course. But yeah, I mean, like those are the things. Like this is what's going to set you apart from being the next Paige Van Zant is you getting your striking up to snuff. You know what I
mhm.
mean? Like, because yeah, you can, if you want to be the pretty girl, then that's already accomplished. If you want to progress in the sport, get your striking where it needs to be.
That's a great point, and I think Tracy, if you hear me and you listen to anything that I say for some odd reason, I think you are the perfect person that could end up having the ego to go into slap boxing. Prove me wrong right here, right now. Do it now. Don't end up being like that. Seriously, because I can see you now having that mentality and that want to be that social media, superstar that when the UFC doesn't pan out, if it doesn't pan out, I'm hoping you take this into heart and I hope you understand what I'm telling you in a sincere way. I could see you taking a slap boxing match against Paige Van Zant. And that's like truly what I like. That's something that I could see is possible Just prove me wrong and be better than that. That's all I'm really asking from you, because I love to see you in the cage and I root for you every single time. And that's all we want to see, is a great fighter who we can root for. And don't go slap box route, please.
All right, there you go. And I'm sure as a huge last week's fights fan, Tracy heard you. So
Thank you. I know. I'm glad she was able to hear that message from the heart, because I do care about her career. And whether there's not much to say about this performance in general, there's much to say about going forward. We still need to see the development, show the new skills. If you have somebody who's 38 years old that you can manhandle around like you did, throw in a little, mix in something that makes me believe that there's a little extra outside of you just taking them down, wrestle, get on top, and do the thing. That does work, but it didn't work against the highest level that you've seen so far. So there's got to be a little more there. You got to show me a little more. I don't know. Tracy, shout out to you for watching the stream.
true, absolutely. All right, well, yeah, I mean, and I agree with those sentiments. So hopefully she will do just that. But good win here at least.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right. Next up is one that was to me a little bit of a heartbreaker, but Chase Mystic Parton over here with a very good endorsement. This is Hyder Emil versus Jose Miguel Delgado. And yeah, Chase, you were pretty high on Delgado in the Discord going into this fight, and what a smart move that turned out to be.
This is one of my more proud moments, because I do want to let you guys know this is why you should believe I'm good at what I do. Because unbiasedly, I have taken Hyder Emil to win as a dog, and he has definitely won me some profit. But when the instance comes where I truly believe that he should or would lose, I think I make the right call to let you guys know my opinion. And I think I made the perfect assessment of the situation here. Hyder Emil coming into this matchup is 11-0, and he's never lost, but he's 35 years old. That is dangerous now, in my opinion. I think about all these old fighters ever since Brad Katona got his first finish being via flatline by Asmat, or what, Bexat, excuse me. It's always stuck out to me. These old fighters that have never been finished, if they go up against a true killer, if somebody believes they are a true killer, okay, maybe there's a little bit there. And in this case, Delgado was my guy, and I remember texting in the Discord. I said, it's one or the other. You just gotta put your nuts on the table sometimes. If you're gonna pick Hyder by split decision, I'm down for it, but at the end of the day, I got to make a big boy decision, and Delgado KO is what I was feeling. And man, did he deliver. Whew, whew, whew.
Yes, indeed. Blink and you miss it fight. This was, I mean, the entire story of the fight was Hyder starts with two low kicks, gets a nice toss, then two hooks and a knee from Delgado. Just turned the lights off completely. Hyder, he got back to it decently quickly. So he started, kind of complaining about an early stoppage, but he was definitely out. So I thought that the stoppage was fine personally. Did you agree with that?
I definitely agree that it was the right call, because I had the money on the KO, but we've seen worse. Hyder Emil definitely he got a loss that was needed in his career. Unfortunately, we've seen people bounce back. Obviously, somebody later in the card has bounced back from a KO very, very quickly. So it's possible, but it's unfortunate that I feel like I prayed against somebody that I really, really like. Hyder Emil is somebody that I really, really like, but Delgado, he is one of these new age athletes that is going to come in and just wreck shop, and that's exactly what he did. He's massive, he's long, and he knows how to use his fucking weapons, and this dude is deadly. So,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it's crazy to me. It's absolutely insane to me that this is all still like within these smaller weights. Like we constantly are seeing. I mean, this is featherweight, so it's not, we're not talking flyweight or anything like that. But like like the new talent that's coming in and just wrecking shop. Like you're seeing the new generation having these skills at such an early level in their careers, or early stage of their careers, I guess I should say. Like these are the future problems that people are going to be dealing with in a big way. And Delgado making a statement out here now, 2 fights over.
mhm.
He still has 100% finish rate, this guy.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's a scary dude,
Well,
you
and
know?
you gotta think of the jump that he just took. Hyder Emil just took out somebody on like a 8-fight win streak or something by, decision or whatever. So to take out Hyder Emil gets your name really high. Like you are higher than ever in stock right now because people know you as taking out the dude who's a zombie. Like this Hyder Emil has taken some shots, and like that's the name of the game is take some shots and I'll give more. But Jose Delgado, excuse me, one more time. Jose Delgado, he's just again new age athlete, knows how to use what he's given, and he's nasty, man. The elbows, the knees, he's going to be a problem, especially because you saw, and I remember seeing it the first time because Elite was asking me like what makes you confident that like he's got that can beat Hyder, and I'm like, dude, in the first matchup he sprawled, got up, not even near the cage. That was all I needed to see. Like he's got the skill to get up, he's got the athleticism, he's got the movement, legs underneath him, stand up, and he did exactly that against Hyder. Hyder shot, and he sprawled, got out of it perfectly, got up, knee up the middle, and ended the fight. I mean, what more can you ask for somebody? What was it? You said it was the second UFC fight or something like that. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
on the great track. Great track.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, keep an eye out and remember the name. That's the one thing that is, I think, tough for people who don't follow as closely as we do. That it's like you've got these new guys coming in. You know, the big names, the established names, are ones that people will remember. But like people like this guy Delgado, people like Malcolm Wellmaker, like these are the new names to remember. You know, Mansour Abdul
Josh
Malik.
Van.
Josh Van is now proven to be one that has transcended. So Josh Van is a great example of why you start following these guys at this level this
Mhm.
early, you know?
Well, and I've been thinking to myself, is like, now that Josh Van again has ascended to past prospect, he's past somebody that you can root for as like a dark horse kind of deal because that, we'll talk about it. But Jose Delgado might be one of those guys that you might put a little stock into that could do something interesting. I mean, what is he doing? Listen, all he has to do is go out here and get a nasty submission randomly, and he's no different than John Silva right now. I know John Silva has a lot of better names on his resume, but Hyder Emil is not an easy task to knock out. Jose Delgado can probably finish somebody who's already been finished before. You give him somebody who's had 6 losses, and it's somebody that you're like, oh, this guy's a gritty guy. He's got a war. It's like, no, Delgado's going to starch him one more time. Like, I mean, he's got that switch. Like he goes in there and he's ready to finish the fight. And I really respect this guy. So dark horse, maybe a little early. We'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think this is a dude to definitely keep an eye on. He just might be him for sure.
Well, and if you don't, you're missing out the opportunity to witness some great highlights. These are when the highlights happen. They're early on in the career. They're not when they're against the top competition, unless you're somebody we'll talk about in the main event, unless you're somebody who's literally the next fucking tier of like greatness. But you'll get some crazy if they are that guy, if they are the killer and not the card filler, quote that, they will give you highlights early in their career on prelims. I mean, Josh Van, he came in, did his thing as the first fight on the prelims of Apex cards. And he comes in and proves to you why he needs to be remembered. And I think Jose Delgado has that opportunity as well.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. So, really nice early, quick finish for Delgado, and I guess that's really all that there is to say about it because it was very, very quick. I mean,
It
this is
was yeah, it was definitely another quick one. I wanna go ahead and give a shout out to Sierra West, West Coast,
hey,
Sierra Swaggy, and Yama, go ahead and take a drink from your big cup for us. She
oh,
would love to see it. She would literally
always,
love to see
always.
it.
We were
Okay.
talking about that on the watch along. How I need to get myself like a custom Stein, like a Yama
Yes.
Stein, maybe that might have to be incoming at some point.
Hell yeah. So we can definitely get into this next fight. I want to set this one up actually.
Sure,
So this
please.
is the matchup between Jack Hermanson and Gregory Rodriguez. Mr. RoboCop versus the I don't know if you know the inside joke. I thought Jack Hermanson was an Aussie for the longest time. He literally looks like Volkanovski. I don't know how I'm wrong here. So either way, I was wrong. He obviously did not pull out the Aussie spirit, which I was really hoping for, honestly. Um, but I genuinely, this is where look at the last fight and I said, okay, he's too old, never been finished. Something's got to give. But when I looked at Jack Hermanson, I'm like, okay, if Joe Pfeiffer didn't finish him, maybe RoboCop may not be able to get away with it. Somehow he is a little sluggish, but he is massive. He does pack power and he does have that fucking killer switch. So the fact that this fight ended in a KO is stupid on my part. That was stupid. That was very stupid. I somehow was like, maybe Jack Hermanson had a chance. No, he didn't. He definitely didn't have a chance. He got rocked, thrown to the mat with a fucking left hook, and then with the slowest Jason Voorhees-esque walk, we get Gregory Rodriguez walking over and slamming his hand into Jack Hermanson as if he was going to fucking kill him. And and uh, I'll let you go up until that point, and we'll talk about the excess.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll go through and then we'll definitely get into that part. So
yes.
I mean, this was well, for the biggest note that I had because I thought that this was going to be the difference maker, and I'm very upset that it wasn't. Was why didn't Jack choose to level change? I don't know. I mean, I'm not talking about during the finish. I'm talking about throughout any of taking some of those heavy shots from RoboCop because that dude
I
is
thought he was
massive.
doing well on the striking,
Well,
actually.
it
I
was
thought
it
he was
was.
shelling up and rolling them. Like, when the overhand was coming, he wasn't, like, taking much damage. So I thought he was doing well at first.
No,
It was
it
very
wasn't.
unexpected.
Right, it wasn't that. Like, it wasn't that he wasn't able to take a shot, period. It's just that when you have several of them and you realize that, like, RoboCop is continuing to push forward because that's one thing in this fight. RoboCop was really on the offensive, making the shots happen. Like, honestly, in my mind, actually, like, during this fight, I was thinking that Alvin Hines could take a note from RoboCop's book by, like, get yourself just close enough into distance where the shots will land, then you can work your way even further forward when you have the respect at that point.
You gotta cut the
So
cage off correctly, though.
that
That's what's
yeah,
key.
that too, for sure, definitely. But so yeah, I mean, this was a little bit like it started off a little slow, a little bit of a plotting performance on both sides before the eventual finishing sequence. Not a crazy amount of output on either side, but
Yeah,
enough.
nothing
It
was
was
landing clean really up until it did. Like, that was what was kinda crazy about this. I thought I was onto something. Like, Hermanson was shelling and he wasn't taking the shots. And then, he did. So,
well, and then I mean, we did see that RoboCop obviously has a good amount of scar tissue built up in his face, considering that he was open from like with some cuts from not major shots from Jack, bleeding pretty
I
profusely.
I'm glad you brought this up. I thought I was big brained as fuck. I was like, holy shit. They bladed Rodriguez before the fight like he's a WWE superstar. They're going to decision. They're gonna try to rob him because of the damage for round one, Jack Hermanson. But either way, that did not happen at all. So that was a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah,
Sure.
he got cut off of nothing. Like, he walked in there bleeding, probably. Like, that was
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah. The shots, like going back and doing the rewatch, like seeing which shots actually opened him up, it really was like pitter patter shots. It was not anything like super crazy, but uh,
Concerning if you're gonna be betting for Rodriguez, because if somebody that is, like, not a easy finish, I mean, how can you bet for somebody that's gonna bleed and show damage very easily, especially when they get hit by air, So,
well, you gotta hope that excuse me, you gotta hope that Rodriguez is of the caliber of like a, Nick Diaz or Nate Diaz rather, like a dude
you've
who got
gotta
like
get the finish at that point.
right, that too.
So,
Yeah, I mean the visual is not great. You're
yeah.
definitely right about that. But so yeah, the towards the end of the round, the left hook from RoboCop just demolishes Jack, and then the follow up shot. This is the thing about the follow up shot, and let you tell it your way as well. But my thing with it was this second shot was the fault of not only RoboCop but Herb Dean as well. I mean, but really almost half and half because Herb's hands were actually around RoboCop's waist when the shot landed. So RoboCop had all of that time to consider what he was doing. He looks, sees that Jack is completely out, walks directly up to him, and then just delivers this kill shot to his face while Herb has his hands around his waist. It was just a bad look because RoboCop, they're saying what a great guy he is, what a nice dude, one of the nicest guys in the sport.
Obama.
Yeah, they're exactly got the kindly Obama face. There's really like all nice things going for him, except that last shot was really unnecessary. And yeah, Herb could have gotten there a little bit quicker, probably should have, but I don't know. Go
No,
ahead, Chase.
no,
You're
it was
farming over it.
100% Herb Dean's fault because Gregory Rodriguez, the way that he walked over, it wasn't somebody who was like, "Oh shit, I gotta go fucking smash his." He literally walked menacingly. Yes, it was definitely when you watch it back, you're like, "Holy shit, he was walking over there to fucking kill this guy." 100% Herb Dean's fault. He is too old in the game to think that the fighters will stop when they see somebody who's a flat board on the ground. And
Well,
if
they
you
shouldn't though. It's not that you
exactly, and
fight
that's
until this you're stopped.
and
Yeah.
I agree. DC, as a former fighter, I know it's a little biased from him to be like, "Well, it's not his fault, he's gotta go until the ref stops him." I agree, but even when you talk about Herb Dean having his hands around his waist, dude, he's already hammer fisting away, like, the waist, he should have shoved you gotta get in there and shove him away, you gotta just step in there. I always talk about Mark Smith and Chris Curtis. When Chris Curtis got knocked down by Kopylov in the last second, and he runs over and he's like fucking Superman, like, you know, that pissed me off. But he at least understood you got to get in between them. You got to get in between the guys because something crazy could happen. If Kopylov, while Mark Smith had his back turned and Kopylov just fucking kicked him in the head while he was down, like, then we would have looked like fucking dickheads. But in this instance, it's like RoboCop, I don't think he necessarily wanted to, but he tried to walk slowly to let Herb Dean, like, give him an opportunity, but Herb, again, too old, too veteran in the sport where he listen, these are middleweights. These aren't guys that fall very quickly. This was a very slow timber type of thing. And then on top of that, you have RoboCop walk over there and drop this meaty fucking hammer fist. Herb Dean, too old, too veteran in the sport. You should have gotten between them. I think that is 100% on him.
Well, to
You
play a
cannot blame the fighter. You cannot
no,
blame
well, no, no, no,
RoboCop
no.
for
You
that.
can't get well. You can't blame the fighter, even though I mean they're probably
Super necessary. Like Ankh said. Sorry to interrupt you.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, no, no, no. I see that too, and I get I understand. Like, yes, you are supposed to fight until you are stopped. I get that part of it. I think that it was the fact that he did have that long walk to consider it. It was the one thing that made it bad to me as far as like the sportsmanship element of it goes. But it's not his fault for that, so I'm gonna
It
be
was
okay with that.
aura though, was it not?
Yeah,
Like, I mean, talk about when you talk about Gregory Rodriguez, the RoboCop, and you watch that clip right there, you're like, "Yeah, that dude is a bad motherfucker." Like, that dude is good. He's there to fucking serve and protect, like, for real.
Yeah, laying down the law. I think that was Onk said that as well. But yeah, no, as far as Herb goes, like the thing that I'll get play devil's advocate a little bit on Herb's side because
Why
like it
though? What
because
how
because
can you? It's
because
all
well,
up to the officiating. I'm sorry, go ahead,
I'll
sorry.
tell you. So if you look back at the replay at the way that it all went down, like Jack goes down and he does go down pretty hard, but in the same way that you were saying how it's like if the like we were the Kopylov example you're giving, yeah,
Mhm.
if that kick had landed, it would have looked a lot different. Like if Jack had started to get back up and Herb is running in already, trying to go for the grab, then that would have been very bad, and we would all been extremely upset about that. So it's like he recognizes that he's going down, and he might have the one criticism you can have is that he was a little bit farther away than he should have been. So I'll say that on Herb's side was maybe a little bit off, that he probably should have just been a little bit closer to the action period. But at the same time, when he recognized it, because he was already in motion he was like landing on the mat, like it was, I think, just unfortunately timed. That's all that it comes down to. I think that he tried his best to do what the right thing was, and it was just a victim of circumstance. Like that's all that it comes down to.
I think going forward, I mean, it's hard. Listen, I 100% say there's no blame on the fighter, and I know you agree. The blame should always land on the officiating if something happens where it's a safety concerns for the fighters. That should always be on the officiating, in my opinion. I think Herb was at fault for doing, the fight was, like you said, there wasn't much going on. It was a little boring. I think Herb was caught doing his grocery list and thinking about his TiVo, and because he was way too far away, he should have been able, at all points, because at his angle, all he could see is RoboCop's back, kind of deal. Like, that should not be the angle where you're judging or officiating the fight, kind of deal, for safety reasons. Like, you got to be able to have both guys in view, see what's going on. Like, you couldn't even see if an eye poke had happened from where he was standing, kind of deal. So I think Herb, sad to say, brother, you might have to go back to the fucking the school of hard knocks or something. Like, I don't know what to say, brother. You got to get back in the e-learning.
I mean, I think it might be a little bit harsh,
Yeah,
but
no,
I
he
do.
is like the GOAT fucking ref.
But yeah,
So
well, and I mean, and again, it's like you have so many fights, things are going to happen. It's split second stuff in
yeah,
there. I think that Herb does a pretty good job for the most part. This was an
I
unfortunate instance.
He doesn't actually come on very often anymore if you've paid, close attention to the audience. If you're a casual viewer, you may not notice that Herb Dean is not necessarily the right-hand man when it comes to the reffing anymore. He's normally the head guy who's on the sideline giving the word on what you should do. Um, and maybe he's just a little lost his touch because he hasn't been in there too often. And I'm being very harsh. Herb Dean, again, obviously one of the best referees in the game. We do respect what he does, but I think right here is one of the moments where you gotta have some criticism. You can't just be like, "Wow, he did best he could." It's like, no, you gotta say something. Like you gotta make something up, even if you don't believe it. Like that was a little egregious. So
Yeah, it was pretty bad to see that last shot land. Yeah, so I mean, I'll give you that he should have been in a better position for sure. That
yeah,
I can
okay.
definitely agree with. But either way, this was a very nice knockout for the highlight reel of RoboCop, and thankfully we got updates throughout the rest of the broadcast as far as Jack's condition went because he was down for quite some time. I mean, it was pretty
I
scary
think the
there.
chat said it was 5 minutes, but that sounds very egregious. But they did what was nuts is they kept showing like what was going on with Gregory, and then in the background you see fucking like you see
Yeah,
him laid out, like it's
yeah.
nuts. So
Yeah, medical staff attending to him and all of that. So thankfully, he's okay now. We got those updates again throughout the course of the evening, and he hopefully is going to recover 100% and all that. But yeah, scary in the moment.
just to make a time capsule type of moment, the only other time that we had two medical updates was Xiao Fei Kan against Shi Ming when she knocked her out unconscious. I just wanted to make
True.
that is
Yes.
a good note.
Yeah. Doctor Sleep. That was a scary one too.
Yep.
Thankfully, I don't. Did they have to stretcher him out? I think he walked out, right?
I don't believe they stretchered him out actually because he did sit up after a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that is actually and they did so he must have just, went to the hospital after because they did give medical updates. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. So thankfully that's the case there. But aside from the controversial hammer fist, this was a really nice highlight worthy knockout for RoboCop. So
Well, yeah, okay, I'm glad you worded it that way. I was gonna say not a great performance.
oh
I
no,
mean,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean it's
this was definitely pretty boring. I mean, the hammer fist kind of made this performance. I mean, the knockout was definitely brutal, but like the hammer fist on top of it. Now we're talking about the fight. If it would have just been him knock him out sleep, it's like, okay, well, there's not much to say, guys. I mean, RoboCop did his thing and he went out there and looked like a fucking savage. But after we got that menacing look of him, it's like now we have a conversation. So in some light, RoboCop did his job, I guess. I mean, he did do his job very proficiently, but he did his job by making the fight something to talk about, if that's maybe a positive somehow.
yeah. Well, and if you're saying that Jack had never been finished, then that's also a
No, he has definitely been finished, but I thought I was definitely under the assumption that he was somebody that doesn't get finished often or had never been like knocked out clean kind of deal. But no,
right.
he has like
Gotcha.
four knockouts or knockout finishes. So
Gotcha.
yeah, so
Okay. Well, and I unfortunate for the great country of Norway, as I had said on my
Australia.
What right, yeah, yeah. Well, I've got a great friend from Norway, and I always try to champion Norwegian fighters and also champion them because the sport of mixed martial arts is still illegal in Norway. So Jack Hermanson is a big advocate for legalizing the sport in the country, and I think that that's in 2025 entirely respectable and admirable. How they are still so far behind the times is a little ridiculous to me. So it would be nice if they had like that champion level guy who could like really raise the stock of the sport in the country to the point where it's undeniable. It would have been great, but unfortunately not Jack.
We sometimes have our ongoing lists that we talk about, and I never put them down. I think is another good list that we should make is all the countries that still have MMA, illegal. And we should keep a tally of when they get legalized. I think that would be a great thing to bring up on the
I
show.
like that. I like that. Maybe we'll get a little Excel spreadsheet going for that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, fair enough. That's yeah. I guess that's it for this fight. Yeah.
Dude, RoboCop, I mean, menace. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, seriously. Menace early. That's the other thing too, is that it's unfortunate for Jack that he wasn't able to draw this out because it could have been a lot different had that shot not connected.
Well, we didn't actually talk about it today, so I'll bring it up actually if we still want to bring something up. It's like, dude, the way that RoboCop made Jared look very early, and Jared was able to weather the storm. I mean, that that's not something that I unfortunately thought that Jack Hermanson was of the caliber of somebody who could weather that storm early and make it competitive later. It was on my it was my bad to think Jared wasn't just somebody who's that big of a Chad. Like, that dude is somebody who's different. Like, he really is, for his age, for what he can do, and the way that he fights against a lot of different styles. I mean, he really does perform his ass off, and I really respect that dude for what I've seen Gregory do to Jack Hermanson just now. Holy shit, Greg, fucking, Jared Cannonier, like, he's on another level for me right now.
Well, that does my heart very good as a big Jared Cannonier fan, so
No,
good to hear.
seriously.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. But yeah, no, I agree, absolutely, and, that I think that now the blueprint should be a lot clearer for fighters that are fighting RoboCop is you need to level change early, you need to tire him out.
Well, it's not even just level change. I mean, RoboCop, in this fight, he's like, okay, I got to start super slow because if not, I'm going to gas out. If you have a fighter at middleweight, which is not okay, it's a little uncommon who's able to just run in there and push the pace in the first round and have a good striking performance where it gets Gregory all busted up and he's bloody, and then he has to start from behind after round 2 and 3, and then he has to come, put the pace on him because he didn't start with a pace that can actually, if you look at the striking numbers here, Jack was actually outlanding him up until that knockout. So if you have somebody who's not able to get caught by the check left, then they win round 1, they've busted up Rodriguez, and then and even potential 5-round Apex main event type of deals. Again, I doubt it, but if that's possible, then you have 4 rounds after that where Rodriguez is fighting from behind with blood all in his face. And I just think it's I'm getting better at learning who to bet on. I brought up Chris Curtis earlier, and he does fight. This is somebody where it's like questionable if you want to bet on them because there's so many things that could go in their disadvantage, I think.
True. Yeah, yeah, I can agree with that. Well, we'll see what is next for RoboCop because now, having a loss to Cannoneer, which was supposed to be like his big propulsion into the upper echelon of the division, he has a little bit of a setback there. This win kind of pushes him a little bit farther forward, so it's like a bit of a push and pull with him at the moment.
He's gonna stay just going back and forth. When the top level comes, like I said, somebody's gonna be able to put it on him quick.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, but we will see. I mean, we've seen crazier rises,
Yeah.
after facing adversity. So
Victory
should be.
by punch is very funny too. It's just like, man, that was a punch, wasn't it? I mean,
It was a punch and then another one.
yes. So I want to bring it up because I thought it was very funny, and I'm not trying to clown my bro at work, but he was like, he was talking about this knockout, and he was like, "What's that? What's that called? Is that like Gorilla Smash?" And I was like, "Hammer fist, brother, just hammer fist."
Yeah,
But
or the,
Gorilla Smash is pretty cool. I will give it to him.
yeah, little Donkey Kong action there.
Yes, exactly.
All right, well, let's move on to the main card here. A little bit more activity, a little bit longer fights. These next
I would not
two.
say that about this one, but continue.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it was super exciting, but it was definitely it definitely lasted longer. This is Felipe Lima versus Peyton Talbot. My note for this fight was that I felt bad for Lima because his instincts were good and he was working very hard, just not finding a lot of success with what he was doing. The choices that he made came up short, and that was unfortunate because he really was trying very, very hard, very valiant effort in this fight, but Peyton just had an answer for everything.
It's actually a very good call on my part and a lot of people's part. I know a lot of people were saying that, oh, was that one performance that Peyton fluked and he'll come back and he'll have the performance. This was not the performance that I think shows that Peyton Talbot is still what you once thought he was. Maybe some people will believe that because, oh, he's back in the win column. Peyton Talbot's back. But when you watch this performance, he's not necessarily somebody, and I believe we actually talked about it sometimes on this show, or at times on this show. It's like some people would say Peyton Talbot at one time was like a Sugar Sean kind of No.
Yeah,
Nope.
like the Zoomer that's, got, like, his own mystique and
Yeah.
aura to him that could be the next, kinda cult of personality.
Well, I don't even know if that's the way that I would say it. I think people were classifying it in the same way as like his striking. It's like, man, he's good at bantamweight. He's deadly. He can knock you out, and
They
his
were
striking is
glazing the
crisp.
striking a lot on
So,
the commentary.
and I think that is just overreaching what Peyton Talbot is ever going to be. He's a very good fighter when it comes to negating what you're giving to him. There were times where he was in the striking. It was a little even, to be honest with you. Like Felipe was actually getting some very decent shots where Peyton was like, agging him on, like, okay, let's actually fight. But then he wasn't getting the shots that would return. The things that made Peyton very efficient in this is his way to reverse the positions, of course, and get to the dominant positions where the judging would say he's winning. There's a point in round 3 where he's sitting on Felipe Lima's head. Can the judging say that Felipe is winning? Obviously not. He's literally has the dude's ass on his head. Like, I don't know. So, but when you look at the numbers, I mean, 37 total strikes landed. That's a little scandalous. But like 3 for 15 on takedowns and 3 minutes of control time. If that was Marab, I mean, 3 minutes of control time, granted, if this was Marab shooting all these takedowns, you'd be like, man, look how active he is. Look at his fucking gas tank. He's out there fucking ripping it. But Peyton Talbot was just able to negate all those positions. And that's what ultimately won him the fight. So I think there was actually times where Peyton was getting too cocky, and you can see that he wants to be that overzealous prospect that has so much hype on him because he got a little too cocky in these moments and he gets fucking, jabbed in the face. There was times where Felipe Lima shot a takedown, didn't get it. So Peyton Talbot, stuck his tongue out and just kind of relaxed. And then he got fucking taken down right after it. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. Like you you started out with the mindset that you got to be on the gas and you got to put this kid down. Like, you got to be ready to win this fight. But then as the fight goes on and you gain confidence, you seep back into what is going to probably lose you the matchups. And I think that is what's key to note. It was hard. Felipe Lima, a dangerous opponent. I thought that's why this was a good matchup. But Peyton Talbot did not show me that he should have at one time been the biggest betting favorite in history, kind of deal.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that at fight over fight, you have seen that Peyton Talbot is very human. I mean, these fights are humanizing him in a real way. So yeah, this is definitely another example of that. To your point, very close first round, a lot of back and forth, very even round. Lima might have even edged that round by a thin margin, I would say. I thought that Peyton had good trip defense. There was that one time that Lima went for an odd angle sweep and Peyton hopped over it. I thought that, okay, good athleticism there, good read. And then I thought that Peyton, to his credit, like you said, he reacts well. He was taking what Lima was giving to him and reacting accordingly in an intelligent manner. There was some good activity on the ground from Peyton with that, because a lot of times when you're just reacting, you end up in these situations where it's like, okay, I've negated what my opponent is doing. What's the next thing? And I thought
Right.
that Peyton had an answer for that, which I thought was good. He was pretty active on the ground. His grappling looks like it's been pretty sharp. I mean, like I
I
don't
don't think
remember
it
him.
never wasn't. I think he just got somebody who was able to initiate the grappling early and get to the positions that he wasn't expecting, earlier. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that this was probably a little bit more. He was able to anticipate what was happening a little bit easier in this fight, which was to his credit. So
Against the younger guy too, which is, a younger, more hungry opponent, Peyton was able to make that adjustment. That's something to note. It's not just, the young or not, sorry, the old vet was able to get over on him, but it really matters against the young prospects. Those are the guys that are going to see you for the belt. So I think that's key to know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I thought the grappling was pretty sharp on his side in this one, and then I just had the note about the time where Lima gets a takedown, gets Peyton's back. He's like backpacking him. He ends up getting shooken off of Peyton's back, and then ends up on the bottom again. And I was like, this is exactly what to my original point here, where it's like it's like you're doing the right things, but it's coming up short, and like that felt like it was just a good example that encapsulated everything that I saw from Lima in this fight. Like a lot of good instincts, a lot of good decisions, but Peyton had the answer. So it's like, what do you really do? Where do you go from that point? And the 3, 4, and 5 steps ahead, Lima just didn't have that. And also, I remember hearing during one of the cornerings, they had mentioned that Lima was acknowledging the power of Peyton Talbot's shots. So it's like, if you're having apprehensions on the feet and then the grappling is not getting you to where you want to go, it's a kind of a no-win situation. So I felt bad for Lima in that regard. And then the only other note that I had was that the visual of Peyton sitting on Lima's face towards the end of the third round was not one that I needed.
I'm glad you noted it. Like the judging, you literally cannot watch that and say, "Oh yeah, he's winning that round." It's like, dude, he's literally sitting on his head. Like that's
Very
just
much.
crazy.
Yeah, another Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev in that instance there. But yeah, 2-1 Peyton Talbot was correct in my books, and I think that that's pretty much whatever, yeah, across the board they gave him. So,
Another short notice one where it's like, okay, if you had a full camp, maybe something interesting could have happened here, which interesting did happen. I think Peyton stole the small moments. Like I said, the sitting on his head was the reason he won the round. I mean, I can't tell you anything else he did other than sit on his head. So that should tell you something.
just keep control. It was all
Yeah.
about the control. I mean, again, the grappling was really on point for Peyton in this fight. So I mean, he was able to just every time that those small motions happened, every time that there was a small shift, he was just able to readjust himself. Good chain wrestling going on. So yeah, it was a lot of that. And that's if there's not anything else to swing around, that's what's going to do it.
We see a lot of these, and we see a lot of Brazilians, specifically with Hani Barcelos and Pantoja later in the card. It's like they sometimes, and I guess they just magically get it over time. Maybe this is the moment of Felipe Lima's career where he gets that moment where you got to get super uber creative with the takedowns. You can't just shoot. No, you can't just like be striking and then shoot. You can't fake the takedown, and you got to get creative. You got to make a clash, and then you got to rip them to the ground, kind of deal. And Barcelos, he didn't necessarily do that, but he was able to make it creative enough that it stun locked Peyton to just not have any grappling ability. So
Right. But that was not the case. So a good win for Peyton Talbot and a nice way to get back in, to maybe some level of status that he should not have been taken down from with
mhm.
the loss to
No, that
Hani
was
Barcelos.
warranted. He definitely should have lost some stock on that. I mean, come on, you're losing to an old guy in the division. I mean, Cody also lost to this guy, and nobody thought he should have. These are people that don't deserve these losses. I don't think, and then they're losing. eh, You
Oh, it's
definitely are at fault.
no, but I mean, more of what I mean is that like people were saying, oh, like hype train derailed. This guy is a fraud. The fraud checking,
Okay, okay,
his
yeah,
allegation was coming around, and it's like, yeah, I mean, okay, he loses a fight to a veteran fighter. Maybe you shouldn't count the guy out completely. I mean,
yeah. I
comes
heard
in
you.
as an underdog in this fight.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So it's like, maybe now. I think you made a good point on your prediction, saying, get in on Peyton Talbot while he's plus money because it might be the last time. It's like that's the reason why is that he never was that bad. It was never like he was completely a fraud and just had some lucky shots that got him to where he was. He's just developing. He's
yeah.
a young guy.
I'm actually glad you brought that up because I forgot I said that. Yeah, this might be the last time you see him as a dog until he's, in a title fight or a number one contender spot because Peyton Talbot, again, has the hype. People will bet on him. And he does have the skill set that can make you believe that something is there. Will that happen? We are soon to find out.
Absolutely. So moving on to the next fight on this main card, Renato Moicano versus Beneil Dariush. This was a frustrating fight to me. This was a frustrating performance from Renato Moicano against a Beneil Dariush who had been out of the sport for quite some time. I think they had said that the layoff was almost 2 years or a year and
Yeah,
a half,
something
so
like that.
long. So it was a very long layoff for Beneil Dariush, and Renato Moicano looked pretty stiff and apprehensive in the first round of this thing. He ended up getting a little bit of a later rhythm and got a knockdown in that first round too. So obviously he took that round, but then later on I was screaming towards the end of this thing. It was
I
very frustrating.
it might have been Toby. He also said that Moicano looked stiff And I responded in that moment. I said, "Well, he kind of always looks like that. Like that's he's never really like a loose kind of guy. Like he's always kind of, uptight into the game plan." And I think unfortunately somehow we made the miscalculation because this should have been a easy fucking win for Moicano, especially after the first round ended with a knockdown kind of deal. You're like, oh my God, he's got this. But then Moicano fucking gassed. Like, what in the world did I see? This is somebody who mauled Benoit Saint Denis in one round and then took round two off because he didn't have to do anything else. And then Beneil Dariush has you worried about the grappling because he's an old man with with strength, I guess. I don't know. This
But
one was
see,
so
look,
hurtful.
I got to address that real quick too, though. This old man shit with Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush is just gray. All right, he just has gray hair. He's not. Moicano and Dariush are 15 days apart from each other. Their
Yeah, they're
birthdays.
both old. I
Eh,
agree.
so yeah, so I mean, like, yeah, okay, they both like, but so it's like you have Dariush is like everybody thinking that he's a geriatric, and Moicano's like this hot shot compared to him. It's like no, they're the same age,
It's
but
the momentum though. Like Moicano's young in the game because he's staying active. Dariush is old because he's taking time off and he's inactive damn near on retirement. That's where I think the youthfulness comes in. Renato, he's got the youthful spirit. He's into social media. That's where that comes from. I don't think it has anything to do with the age itself.
well, fair enough. But I mean, either which way, I thought that Dariush actually looked like he was the younger guy in all of this with the way that he was moving, because I thought that his movement was fantastic in this fight, honestly.
Mhm.
Really all of the movement that you saw from Dariush that got him to like the upper levels of the division were on display in this fight. So I was like, this layoff really did not ring rust him in any significant way. I thought that the low kicks were working really well for him. Now, granted, Moicano drops Beneil in the first round, right? Like I said, so it takes that round. So all he needs is one more round. But like you were exactly right, the gas tank was just zapped, and I was like, "What happened to this guy's gas tank?" I mean, round two was very grapple heavy. Beneil gets the better of that early. Then Renato accepts position on the ground and stays there for a long time. I mean, the whole round he's on his back. So you'd think that maybe he's taking some of that to regenerate some cardio, but like it was just it was non-existent in that third round as well, because I said the third round is where I mean, you go back and watch the watch along, this is where like I was like, you talk about yelling about mixed martial arts, that's
Huh.
where I was certainly yelling. Because first, okay, even before I get into the fight part, did you notice that they did the PFL thing where they showed a little box in the bottom of the screen where Charles was getting stretched out before his fight? Did you see that?
That is not the PFL thing that I noticed this week. I noticed that they did the ref cam one time, and it was literally a moment that had nothing to do with like it had nothing to do with anything. It was just like a grappling position, and he just like turned on the ref cam, and they were like, "Oh shit, 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 my bad," and then they went back to the regular
Yeah,
camera.
you make a good observation there, because I do remember we made a big note about the ref cam being active for that one event, like where they all were wearing it, and then it just sort of went away.
Yep.
So I don't know, but no, yeah, the PFL is notorious, to me at least, for mid fight having either a graphic or someone doing commentary, or like they're talking about another fight, like they're like they'll have a picture in picture there, and I'm like, you are being extremely disrespectful to these fighters by showing anything aside from the fight happening during the fight. So I was really
Well,
like
last
not
week they
happy.
started like talking about the next fight
Well,
about.
that was, yeah, that was funny. That was because nothing was going on, and
Oh, now
and
it's funny and not
well, but there
disrespectful.
was no
Okay.
there was no image associated with it, though. What I'm saying is that there was literally a video feed of backstage where Charles was getting his his arms stretched out, him getting massaged. I'm like, why do we need to see this? And B, you're distracting from the fight. So
Right.
I do not like that. I
I
don't
did not
appreciate
catch
it.
that. That's interesting.
Yeah, it wasn't like super long, but it was just it happened, and that bothered me. So anyway, I just
Mm.
wanted to mention that because it pissed me off.
Well,
But
we were worried if Charles was gonna pull out again, so they had to let us know, "He's there, he's good,
fair.
guys."
That okay, good point there. I guess it is warranted. But so then Beneil is keeping up the pace in this third round. Pressure is on. Hanato has nothing left in the tank. It looks like you drop your opponent in the first round, accept the position, like I said, for the cardio in the second. All you need is that third, and still have nothing for the one round you need to win the fight. The end of the fight was where it really bothered me the most, though, because at the end of the fight, Hanato has Beneil with his back to the cage, and he is just standing there staring at him. I'm like, bro, if there's
Horrible.
anything, yeah, if there's anything left in your system, you have to throw your hands. Put your hands out there, even if it's just like, if the shots are not powerful because you don't have the power left, that's fine.
Oh,
But
yeah, his arms were dead as hell. Yeah, he couldn't throw a punch at all, which was
brother, I
nuts.
throw limp fucking noodle arms at him.
Mhm.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I wanna see something because standing there looking him dead in the eyes and taking pictures, as DC would say, was just a horrible image. It was a really bad look, and, 2-1 Dariush is so sad in this fight considering that drop in the first.
I
No
agree.
no money Moicano.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Unfortunately, this is somebody going forward that I just have to remember that he lost to somebody I was so confident that he would be. There's different type of, matchups. We talk about the fight before this and the fight after this. These are dangerous opponents where I know there's a risk for my favorite guy to lose. When it came to this one, I said there was no risk at all. There's no way Moicano could lose this matchup, and he did. So that's unfortunately the memory that I have going forward. I mean, he better not be on that goddamn Show Me the Money podcast. Show me Benil fucking scorecard podcast. God damn it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I had said that during the watch along too. I was like, if this is the level of competition that you have left at this stage of your career, then maybe podcasting is the route to go because
True.
yeah, this you can't be at a high level in this sport and gas that significantly. I mean, again, we're talking lightweight here. I mean,
Yes.
we're not talking like, some massive 265-pound heavyweight. This is a dude fighting at lightweight. There are going to be younger people who are going to, walk circles around you and still have, cardio in the tank for a fourth and fifth round if they needed it.
Hell yeah. No, I agree. It,
Yeah.
it was an unfortunate performance, and I did end up I cashed out on a bet because I was like, if I'm up now, I'll add Moicano into it and we're gonna make even more money. And then I flopped there. So this was unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all that I got to say about that one. So let's move on to one that I know that you have a lot to say about. Brandon Royval versus Joshua Van. Van in on short notice, filling in for Manel Kopp. He was 3 weeks notice for this fight after having just fought, and one of the more active fighters on the roster right now, fighting at an average of every 60 days. So, what do you got to say about this one, brother?
I think you're incorrect. I don't know if I have too much to say. I think I've said it all before. I can't say too much again. I mean, I told you guys this guy was destined to be something great. And if he was going to be the one to take this division by storm, then I am all for it. I've been here since the beginning. And I saw it. I don't know what I saw. I don't know how I did. But the first time I saw Josh Van fight, I said, that guy right there. He knows what's up. He knows how to fucking fight. And coming into this performance again, you have fights where there's risk. These are Brandon Royval is not some slouch. This is not somebody that I said, oh, Josh Van on short notice, oh, he's gonna fucking mop. Never would have crossed my mind. Brandon Royval was somebody that I would have said, and which I was incorrect in my assumption. I would have said would have came out here and put the power strikes on Josh Van, while Josh Van was the volume striker and doing a lot more of the heavy lifting of the encounters. I was completely wrong in that assessment because never in my days would I have thought Brandon Royval, who, granted, is one of the greatest flyweight strikers that we've seen, never would I have thought would he outstrike Josh Van convincingly, because these numbers are a little skewed. At times, it was like really bad.
Oh yeah, that first round, it was the differential was crazy.
But Josh Van proving everybody wrong who has once said that he has pillows attached to his arms. It is incorrect because he led the dance with how impactful his strikes were in this matchup. Every time he landed, Brandon Royval felt it. He was falling backwards, the hair was flipping across. And then when you get towards later in the fight, shout out to this random Twitter account, because I didn't even catch it because I was just so wrapped up in what he was doing with the hands. Josh Van in the third round started mixing in the oblique kicks and just destroying Brandon Royval. Every time he'd step in, oblique kick came, and then we're ripping the body and coming up top with hooks. It was insane the way that Josh Van was leading the distance battle as somebody who's shorter with shorter reach. It doesn't make sense because Josh Van is just that good. And like I said, every time he steps in the cage, he's making history. This is genuinely, and I say this right now, genuinely a Hall of Famer in the making for what you are seeing right now. 4 instant classics to his name. and then you have a performance that just tells you everything you need to know about why he needs to be in title contention. Like he's that fucking guy. Like I love it.
All right. I mean, it's hard to disagree with any of those assessments.
Well, did you see the numbers? I mean, he passed Joanna Champ, whatever her name, Joanna Violence. He passed her for the quickest to 1,000 strikes. She did it in 8 fights. I think he did it in 7. So
Yeah, yeah, no, you see those graphics every time that he's out there. Yeah, it's true. I mean, he will be, if he is able to secure the title, he will be the second youngest champion in the history of the organization. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely a star, and I'm glad to see that his star is rising now and that people are recognizing it. Obviously, it was nice to see that they had the face off with Pantoja. Of course, we'll get to that fight in a
yeah,
little
they
minute
got
here.
him out there quick, didn't
Yeah,
they? He was fucking
I don't even think he
shirtless
went
still.
backstage, yeah. They just sat him right cage side for it. Yeah, so I mean, I some of this you might disagree with a little bit, but I want to be fair about the
Okay.
assessment because I think that perhaps your love and devotion of this fighter maybe clouds a little bit, but not too much, not too much. I don't want to like dog you too hard on this, but I did think that this was a very close fight up until the end. I thought that this really was volume versus accuracy, and accuracy won in a big way. The precision of Josh Van's striking is without a doubt his greatest asset, in my opinion. He's fast with his hands and they connect almost effortlessly. And it's an amazing thing to witness. His boxing is very much next level. Royval's biggest mistake in this fight was trying to go tough for tough with Van on the feet. And that was, I thought, I could not believe what I was seeing during this fight when it came to this staying on the feet for the entire fight. Royval has such good instincts generally and a great takedown ability through people who like Josh Van are very hard to take down. Josh Van has great takedown defense, which is amazing for a guy who just recently started wrestling and grappling in his career. He's young to that part of the game, but amazingly he can sprawl with the best of them. I mean, so I would have thought that it was like Royval's time to be like, all that shit that you've seen from these other guys as far as taking this guy down goes, I'm gonna show you how it's really done. And he just did not do that. And I thought that was a terrible mistake on his part as far as game planning goes. I thought that Royval was whiffing a lot of shots in the first round. Accuracy and land percentage improved dramatically in the second. I gave him that second round. So I thought it was a close, super close 1-1 going into the third round. Van, like you said, mixed up the attacks really nicely. I thought that those low trip kicks, the oblique kicks were a little bit less, but he was doing like those little like sidestep behind the foot, like kind of shot, one of those kinds of like little like sweeping up kicks sort of deals. But they were super effective. And I was like, man, in a fight like this, if you're going to keep it on the feet like this, both these guys going face to face with these strikes, like little things like that make a huge difference. And Royval, you could see that they were affecting him. So I was like, man, the mixing of the martial arts here is certainly, or not the martial arts, but the mixing of the striking is definitely on display from Van and working to a great result. And then, of course, he ends up dropping Royval at the very end of the fight. And I was like, oh, well, there you go. I mean, that's definitely going to seal it if there was any doubt about it, because commentary, and I was agreeing with commentary on this one, that like being a judge for this one was going to be super difficult if that drop had not happened.
I don't think I like the way you started that conversation. You wanted to burst my bubble about Josh Van's performance. I genuinely don't think it was a 30-27 like this judge had given. I was rightfully assuming this was going to be a split decision bout for Josh Van. And I did not get that, and I was very surprised because yes, this was a very close fight. This was close to the point where it was nerve-wracking, but what you're witnessing is so fucking next level that it doesn't even matter. Like you're witnessing history. I mentioned to you last week, Brandon Royval is 1 foot out the door in the division. He's ready to go to bantamweight. It doesn't surprise me that he decided to go tough for tough. He said it's now or never. I'm either gonna win or I'm gonna lose, and I'm gonna go either way. So Josh Van putting on this performance, like you said, dropping him in the third, very, very impressive. Brandon Royval, one of my favorites, honestly, and I'm genuinely happy as a fight fan. I got to witness Brandon Royval put on a 5-round performance against Tatsuro Taira and then a 3-round insane banger against Josh Van. You know, Brandon Royval also, I don't know if you know, he got his show and win money for this. And I think it is extremely necessary to applaud performances like this because you have people who just throw it out the fucking window, dude. They're ready to just go fucking slug. Like they want to put on a performance that is going to, you know, leave people remembering why they went to the fights. You know, they left the fights. They're like, holy shit, do you remember that Josh Van and Brandon Royval fight? Like that's why Brandon Royval should get both of his checks.
All right. Well, I'm very glad then that you're acknowledging all of that and that the love of Josh Van is not overtaking the
No, it was close
impressiveness.
as fuck. It
Yeah.
was
Okay.
close,
Good.
bro.
I'm glad to hear that because I didn't want to hear some, the Patty Pimblett after the Jared Gordon. Nah, that wasn't close. Blah blah blah.
No, 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 no.
Okay.
30-27 was scandalous, damn near. I'm like,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they robbed me out of money because I'm like, split decision is a guarantee after what I just saw for 3 rounds. Holy shit, I've done it. I've done it again. Split decision for Josh Van, and then they didn't give it to I'm like, holy fuck, what?
True. Well, so I did add this to the fight tracker for a potential fight of the year. Do you think that that is warranted?
Um, it depends on if the way that they have the fiscal year is set up. Because actually, we didn't bring it up until now. They did show a graphic a little earlier in the card of the nominations for the awards, and it was Dricus, Islam, Marab, and Ilya. I think I said Ilya twice, but Islam or Ilya, and it was the fighter of the year. And we were talking about it in the Discord, and we will get into that after this card. But I don't know where I was going with that, but there was a reason that came up.
Fight of the year.
Yes, fight of the year. So it depends on how they do the fiscal year kind of situation for it. Because Josh
Well, I'm
Van
just talking about for our show.
for 2025 fight of the year. Oh yeah, this is a fucking banger. Yeah, we could keep this one for the end of the year to talk about for
All right,
sure.
cool. Well, it's on the list now, so good. We will reapproach that list at the end of the
Yeah,
year,
don't
and
spoil what we have on there. I was actually going to ask what other ones are on there, but don't spoil it. I want to
sure.
be very surprised.
Yeah, no, just all you guys got to know out there that are watching the show is that we're keeping track of fight of the year, submission of the year, and knockout of the year. So
Oh yeah.
we'll have all of those as we get towards the end.
Hey, shout out Myanmar.
Oh,
Man,
yes,
you are the
indeed.
best.
Yeah, and Myanmar in the house, and I guess this would be an appropriate time to note yet again your steadfast devotion and love for the people of Myanmar is reciprocated in your chats on your watch-alongs. You get a great contingency of people coming by and supporting from Myanmar and countries surrounding it. So shout out to all of the fans from that area of the world supporting Chase. Definitely keep
Absolutely.
watching.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys are my boys, and we're ready to see Josh Van get that belt next. So, actually, is there anything you want to talk about? I mean, going forward, we're going to talk about Pantoja here in a second, but going forward for Josh Van, is there anything you want to talk about considering the title implications that are coming for him?
I mean, I think that they go hand in hand with this next fight because, we saw a performance from the champ that was, I thought, it was a near flawless performance and one of his best. So, I mean,
Actually, we should get into that, and then we'll
yeah, I
talk
was
about
gonna.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
sorry,
that's probably
sorry.
the better way
That
to
makes
do it.
sense.
Because yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a hard hill to climb. So let's get into this co-main event, and we'll talk through all of that. Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Kara France. If you didn't think that Pantoja was the flyweight goat already, I mean, a performance like this it's going to make it pretty hard to argue, as far as I'm concerned.
The only thing that concerns me about that argument is it's just a new name to the resume that he hasn't already, actually, he already did in Tough, I think is what it was. But
Yeah, yeah.
he gets a name to the resume that people can't say. It's like, oh, he's wiped out the division, which he is. He continues to do that. Kai
Running
Kara
circles
France,
around the division.
yes, Kai Kara France is somebody that I genuinely knew did not have the grappling of Pantoja. City kickboxing is not going to be able to equip you to the levels to be able to defend that guy. You don't have somebody who's small enough to to replicate, excuse me. Pantoja is just that good, that creative, and that guy when it comes to wrestling. And Kai Kara France is somebody who he wears damage actually very easily. I don't know if you guys noticed, he was kind of beat up after not really much had happened in this kind of fight. But there was something to note is in the middle of round 2, I remember typing "uh-oh" because Pantoja looked very, very worn. He looked like he was wearing it, and he normally does have that look of somebody who's always tired, but it did concern me in that moment. Maybe KKF was going to have his moment there and get some strikes off. He didn't. And then round 3 started, and then we get more grappling, and Pantoja gets the. But either way, Pantoja. Let me let you finish with what you have to say, and
Well,
then we'll
because I
talk.
would just to address that, I think that the idea that Pantoja is ever gassed should just be wiped off the planet. I mean, like, we have seen him in 5-round wars. You know, the series with Brandon Moreno should have already proved that to most people, that this dude, yeah, he wears the gas tank in a way that's different, you know, than other people. So yeah, there are times where it might look that way, but never believe that it's actually the case, because even at this dude's sloppiest, he is so much better than everybody else.
He's got so much heart too that he would not just like gas out. Like you wouldn't see
Absolutely.
him just like dead in the water, just standing there. Like he would fight through that kind of shit.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And so, I mean, breaking this thing down just a little bit as far as like this performance goes, I mean, Pantoja just immediately in Kai's face, easy takedown, starts this thing off, body triangle immediately locked in. It's
Yep.
just like he has such you talk about that, the kill switch. It's like it might not be like a go out there and pound a face away, but he locks into the grappling so tremendously quickly that it's like before you even know what's happening, he's already got what he
Yep.
wants done. So Kai's trying to work himself out of danger, but Pantoja's control is just insane throughout the entirety of this thing. Dominant first round, continues into the second round. Nice low kicks from Pantoja. Then he has this sequence. I like, you go back and watch the watch along. Like, my facial reaction was pretty funny because I'm just like, God, I can't believe that this guy is this good. It was the time when he has Kai on the back foot. He's moving backwards. He ends up kicking the leg and turns that into a takedown in motion. This is
Mhm.
like a cross cage trip that they
That's
both
where we
do
were talking about
together.
how creative his takedowns are.
Right.
It's like he's unstoppable when it comes to mauling somebody with a takedown. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the ending sequence was another incredible one as well, where in the third round, Pantoja gets Kai's back and wants to take him to the ground, but Kai's fighting him off, and he's like, he has him around the waist, you know, like on his back, and he's, you can see him shifting his body weight. He's doing
Is
he's
that
got
when
the
he
hand.
drags him back down? Like he's
He
like falling backwards
Brother, he absorbed him
with
into
his
the
legs
position.
and yeah, yeah.
It was I was like, dude, the power, obviously the power that takes to make happen, and the awareness to like and also the stick to itiveness of just not letting the grip go. He never loses the grip. It sucks him in and takes the back, and then, you know, just gets him on the ground, body triangle again, flattens him out, and finds the rear naked choke. It was like boom, 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 boom.
You gotta see the look on his face every time Pantoja's grappling. It is just another day at the office. It is never like he's like, even when the situation he's got his back and he's trying to drag him down, it's not like he's worried. It's like, I'm getting him down. And then he wraps his legs around him. Like you said, yes, he absorbs him. He literally just pulls him back into the back control. And it was absolutely perfect. And then at the end, we had the same back control, and Kai Kara France takes a moment. He takes a moment off, and then the choke gets slipped in. And then I don't know if you noticed like how beautiful it was that Pantoja was. He was
Adjusting it. Yeah.
he dude. He was fucking him up. Like it was genuinely awesome to see, and it was kinda hard because he was switching it up so much that he couldn't hide it behind his head because he was, like, using his head as extra pressure to push on Kai's head against his arm, so he wasn't able to get his hand slip behind his, but he was able to keep adjusting it and it was damn near talk about I don't even know, man. That was just next level shit. You don't see that often. Even when you talk about the grapplers that are the greatest, the next level guys, you don't see certain things that often. Like, okay, so another example, when you talk about next level grappler and guys, like certain things Habib did to submit people, you just don't see. Like Justin Gaethje was in a triangle and he flipped him over onto like you just don't see shit like this every day, and shit like this you don't see every day. So I just
Yeah.
love Pantoja.
It's just, you talk about the elites of this sport, and if you're not putting Alexandre Pantoja in that conversation, then I don't know what to tell you at this point. I mean, he has proven it so many times. He even himself was talking recently about, the pound for pound list, and how they have Jack Della listed over him, and what a disgrace that is. And, no disrespect to Jack Della and his skill set, but what this man has accomplished in this sport at this point, like he's got to be higher up on the pound for pound, if not on the pound for pound goats conversation in some capacity at this point. He has proven himself time and time again. And as I had said, he's lapping his division. He is running circles around the division at this point. Now, to your earlier point about Kai, I did want to address that too, because I think we kind of both came to the conclusion without actually full on saying it, but Kai probably was not right for this matchup anyway. He's coming off of the knockout of Steve Urseg. We had talked through why that's not really that major of an accomplishment, even though it's an accomplishment and you shouldn't take that away from him. But like in the grand scheme of things, knocking out Steve Urseg versus what you're going to face from the champ that's worlds apart. That's two different worlds completely. So I think that Kai was just in over his head in this match to begin with. So that, allowed Pantoja to express and to put on display all of the greatness that he has. But that being said, this could have been anybody in the top five. This could have been anybody farther down in the top five. Like, I just think that Pantoja is such a next level talent that anybody and everybody is going to have a problem with him, which brings us to the Josh Van question.
I genuinely, off rip, it's like, okay, I'm a fan of Josh Van, but let's be realistic. Pantoja mauls everybody. He's probably gonna maul him. But as I do think about it, as I sit here and think, as somebody who tries to be realistic and unbiased, we've seen crazier things. Pantoja is somebody who's on the later end of his career. Josh Van, that second round moment against with Pantoja, and where I said, oh, or it looked like he just Kai Car-France was going to have that moment to take the charge. I don't think, well, he won, he didn't, but I think Josh Van in that moment would. And I think for some odd reason, it doesn't make sense. Josh Van will be able to not get submitted and he'll be able to get back to the feet, maybe at the beginning of the rounds. It may not be able to be in the middle of the rounds, in the middle of the cage or against the cage. He may suffer with back control, just like KKF did. But I think in round two, what Josh Van has, and I think Steve Urseg had this too, and I think this is what went to his advantage with Pantoja, is he's an unsuspecting striker. He doesn't have unsuspecting power necessarily. Matt Schnell's different, but Pantoja had a mindset of, I can just walk through this guy, and then unsuspectingly he had striking to keep up. For the 5 rounds, the grappling did, play a big part in it too. But Josh Van is somebody who Pantoja could rightfully think that I could eat his shots if Brandon Royval could for 3 rounds. I could do that. But with somebody who's aging, with Josh Van who's only getting more mature into his body with more muscle mass and more skills, I think it is genuinely a possibility that Josh Van could upset Pantoja very, very efficiently.
Yeah, I'm not counting that out. I'm not counting that out as a possibility. I think that if you go into a fight with Josh Van underestimating his striking, you're off the bat going to be in a very, very bad situation. I think that the issue that you run into is that, again, being a 5 rounder, it would have to be Josh Van coming out immediately strong, and proving that striking is of that caliber from the start of the fight. It's like catching his attention and then just having some type of next level ability to stuff those takedowns is just going to be a big deciding factor.
Well, I think what's key to note is Pantoja has a lot of his success walking forward. When you watch the loss that he had to Figgy had him on the back foot and was just spamming him with hooks, which Figgy is very good at. Josh Van, not necessarily packing the power on those hooks, but he definitely has the volume that can keep you on the back foot more than just one opportunity. I mean, if you think Josh Van is just going to throw one punch or a 1-2, I mean, you're gonna be on World for Hurt. Pantoja might be on the back foot a lot more than we think, which is gonna negate a lot of the wrestling, and he's gonna have to get more creative. You saw with Steve Urseg, once the striking got competitive, then Pantoja has to mix in a lot of creative grappling, and even then it was a split decision. Pantoja is very, very great. I don't think KKF was of the caliber of somebody that was going to beat him, but Josh Van is somebody that if you play your cards right and you think the right way, he might be able to pull an upset of the century.
Yeah, I'd say that does track. I think that it's going to have to come with a gaining of respect early in the fight, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to get that out of someone like Pantoja, who's seen it all. I mean, he's been in there with power strikers. He's been in there with fast guys. It's flyweight. Everybody's fast. I mean, like that's actually one of the reasons I think that Pantoja maybe gets a little bit overlooked, aside from the size of flyweights, is the fact that he's not the fastest of the flyweights. You know, he's not one of these like cats in a bag kind of fighters. You know, he takes his time a little bit more, especially when it gets to the grappling. I mean, on the feet it's a little bit different, but you know, he's able to navigate all of the elements of the division, that like all of the skill sets that are brought to him with the dynamics of the division. He has a game plan for all of those things. So it's an overwhelming that Josh Van would have to get off to the point where it's like, man, this guy really is something that's different than what I've seen before.
And I think he's the perfect guy to do that. I mean, he's done it every time he's fought. He's proven that he's historically like he's significant to the sport of flyweight right now. And I think it's only the change of guard coming. And I hate to say that Pantoja may not get to where he wants to be. He wants to be, DJ. He wants to get those records. And I don't know if he's ever gonna get those, because that's what was it, 11? Like that. I mean, he's at 4 or 5 now. Like, I mean, it's a hard task.
That's more than that, is it not? I thought he was at like 8.
Title defenses?
Yeah. Is
Mm-mm.
it not?
I,
Because
I
Royval, I mean, excuse me. Well, yeah, Royval is one of them, but yeah, I mean,
Ravel twice, I
yeah,
think.
Royval, and well, I mean, no, but that's the thing with him, is that he's fought a lot of these guys before, but when it comes to actual title defenses, it's
True, true, true.
Moreno twice, I believe, and then Royval and
Erceg.
Urseg, and now Cara France. Yeah, so okay, maybe less than that, but either way, I mean, I would think that he might have the ability to. Is Josh Van going to be the one to upset him? It is possible. I'm definitely not ruling that out outright.
If not, we bank on Tatsuro. That's basically all we got.
And that could also be. I mean, you know, I think the Tatsuro is pretty well rounded as well, and still young and still developing. So
I want to take criticism. Pantoja, even before the fight, he said, I want to take some big fights. I want to fight Josh Van. Like, that was before the fight. He didn't say Tatsuro, and I think that was a major flop. Tatsuro is a fucking talent in this division, and he can bring a huge market to a fight like Pantoja.
yeah,
So
but he's coming off of a loss to somebody who he should have beat if he wanted to be that guy, you know?
that was a tough competitive matchup. It was literally all down to one sequence, which you could talk about with Steve Erceg to Pantoja. It was all down to that one grappling sequence.
Oh, I mean, I'm in agreement on that. I'm just talking the facts on the boots on the ground, kind of,
I
you know,
agree.
as to why.
Well, and now Tatsuro is he's about to face the number 2 guy in the division. So he's in the same scenario as Josh Van, where if he jumps up and beats, which Tatsuro facing Royval was a huge jump, and the fact that it was even competitive is even nuts thinking about. So if he goes up against number 2 and does the same thing Josh Van does, if Josh Van is unfortunately not the worthy contestant to take Pantoja's belt, Tatsuro could be right in line, and I think that is that's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, flyweight continues to be the most exciting division in the sport. So
Those would be if I had to pick 2 people to be Pantoja's one of his last defenses, Josh Van, Tatsuro. I think those are basically on the list. That's it.
sure. Well, and we know.
Mokaev, sure, if he counts.
Yeah, I guess in some version of reality, he does count if he ends up
True.
coming back. But yeah, I mean, as of right, well, and also I guess Manel to an extent. But you know, we'll see
I
what
don't
ends
care
up
about him.
happening. Yeah, we'll see what happens when he comes back. Obviously,
He
he was
has
supposed to
8
be.
canceled bouts in the UFC.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
Yeah, 11 actual fought bouts.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I don't know. He's his own situation, Manel Cop. But anyway, as I mean, you know, we know they had their nice little face off in the ring, so we know that it's set in place.
Josh
Alexandre
Van came out
Pantoja.
with the worst outfit ever designed. Did you not see it? He
I
had the capri jorts with the socks pulled all the way up,
Oh
and then he
no.
had like the baseball jersey on, dude, it was a sight to behold. Josh
Yeah.
definitely got dressed in the dark with that one.
Well, either way, you know, I mean, I thought that he did pretty good on the mic himself, and then you know, in ring, you know, I think he conducted himself pretty okay. Both of them respectful guys to each other, and you know, now we know what's going to happen there. So get ready for that fight.
Humble and confident, it can sometimes, it's different than cocky. And we'll talk about with the main event, somebody who comes off a little cocky, but I think we are also just misreading the humble confidence that this guy possesses. So lead
Well,
us into this
I
one.
was gonna say, I guess that is a nice lead in right to the main event of the evening, Ilya Topuria versus Charles Oliveira. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about, I missed a, excuse me, I missed a Yama episode for the last event, so I really want to get one out for this one. And the title that I had in mind was New Gods, and it would definitely seem warranted when speaking about Ilya Taporia, who has now made himself not only a person who has backed up everything that he said he was going to do in this sport so far. Every single thing that he said he was going to accomplish, he has accomplished, but is now also a two-division champion.
Well, we'll talk about that portion of it here in a second. I mean, there's not really much more to say about the performance. Yeah, he went in there and he flatlined Charles Oliveira. That's exactly what he did. Said he was going to do it, and we oftentimes, every time there's a champ and every time somebody's crowned, we believe in our hearts that that's the best person in the division. Like that person is unbeatable to everybody else in the division. And I think we are wrong to make that assessment about a lot of champs. But this guy here, I mean, I don't see anybody that's gonna come across and take this
Well,
throne.
that was the question. So, okay, just to break down what actually happened in the fight because it informs this conversation. Early connection for Taporia opens up Charlie's forehead, and that was just a regular shot that did it. By the way, people like you got to keep that in mind. Like maybe you could say that the glove scrape did was the what actually made the cut, but you have to be generating an insane amount of power for a full on knuckle connection punch to be the thing that
He's
actually
just
opens
got
the cut.
the scar tissue like Rodriguez.
Okay, fine. If you want to chalk it up to that, perhaps, but I'm thinking that it's power related. I mean,
Okay.
and Taporia has shown that power time over time, so I'll go with that. Charles initiates the takedown. Ilya defends and ends up on top. What I had the note, and I said it on the watch along, say it here too. If Ilya really does have this, back pocket ground game, he's one of those guys, and I've said time and time again too that like I refuse to believe this anymore. But with him, it could be the case where they're like, oh, he's got great jujitsu. He just doesn't have to use it. Anytime that you hear that, it's generally bullshit because if a tree falls in the forest and no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Same thing here. If you've got it in your back pocket and never use it, then I don't believe it exists. But here we saw, he ends up on top. If he has this ground game, he might be unstoppable. So ends up on the ground, ends up in control there. Charlie wants to play the come on into my guard deal. Ilya wisely does not play that game. He stands him up. Love seeing that, of course. Fight IQ on point there.
3 kicks too late, I would say. I'll make a note. He kicked him in the legs a little too long for my liking. Ilya that
Yeah,
I know would have said, "Get the fuck up right now."
yeah, playing with his food a little bit, I suppose. But it was yeah, and then I mean the shot that connected was just a power shot that sealed the deal. I thought that it was very funny that Joe Rogan on commentary was saying there's a difference in how Charles is absorbing the shots, and then immediately Charles gets knocked out.
Yeah, no, it was definitely brutal. It wasn't as bad as RoboCop and, what's his face, Hermanson,
Yeah,
but
well, there was no follow up there.
yeah, yeah. This one was just heartbreaking because we all knew what was gonna happen. We all knew why they were giving this matchup to Ilya because they knew Charlie was susceptible to the shots and Ilya would throw the shots that would knock him out. And that's evidently what happened. Ilya, yes, is a two division, not necessarily two division current, but he is a lineage two division champ. I would also like to note specifically off rip at the time, I thought it was very funny that he pulled out both belts. It's like, okay, because you're going to correct me. I know off rip, but just hold on. So I'm like, he has the 55 and the vacant 45. And then somebody corrected me later and said, no, that's Volk's belt he's holding. And I thought, oh my God, 100% true. Why would he go out there with both belts? Like that, he's not even the 45 holder anymore. But
Yeah,
whatever.
no, I'd seen that point going around a little bit as well. I think that it's really just the double champ does what he wants kind of thing. Now, I mean, granted, like you said, he's not a simultaneous two division champion, but he was a champion and vacated that division, went to another one, got another belt. So he is a 2 division champion. So, visually, I guess he's just showing that off. And
Well,
I don't think it was
I
actually Volk's belt, though. I mean, I think that
no,
was
it
just,
ain't Volk's belt, but I mean,
yeah,
Volk is the holder of the 45, and he's holding the 45 belt,
yeah, that is, yeah,
but
it's a good point.
I think also it's gonna skew the information when people look back on history because they're gonna watch the clips and they're gonna see Ilya holding 2 belts and they're gonna say, "Man, Ilya was a 2 division champion. Like he was a double champ." And it's like that's not the case. If Islam wins and he holds both of the belts out there, I think we are seeing a major rewrite of what should be accurate to history. It's like these guys were not the double champs. Like they were champs from divisions below and they went up and got the belt again. That's not a simultaneous double champ. People like Volkanovski wanted to attain double champ status. That's key to note. That and I don't know. Going forward, yes, Ilya wanted to achieve that double status and maybe the organization did not let him. Same with Islam, but at the time, I still think it's a little wonky to have both the belts out there.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying with that. Like perceptionally, it does kind of skew the view of things, but that's why it's important for people like us to make sure that we're saying he is a 2 division champion. He is
Yes.
not a double champ.
Yes.
But yeah, but aside from that, the optics of that, I mean, you have now seen Ilya Topuria knock out Max Holloway, uh, Alexander Volkanovski, and now Charles Oliveira. I mean, he is going through and demolishing your favorite fighters time over time. I think that the realization that Ilya is just that guy has to be here now. I mean, like I don't think because the conversation in the watch along was who is going to be the guy that can stop him? And I genuinely did not have an answer for that question. I said, I don't know. I don't think that there is an answer for it right now, except possibly Islam Makhachev.
Yeah, nobody in line at the lightweight rankings is anybody that I would jump to and say he is going to beat Ilya when his time comes. It's not going to be Justin. It's not going to be Armin. It's not going to be Dan. You know, any of these people, it's just not going to be, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
So I mean, really, I think that the fight that I think a lot of people wanted for this event was Topuria and Makachev, and now obviously Islam is moving up to welterweight. So I'm right. Yeah.
yes.
So I mean that we didn't get that fight there. Who knows if we're going to get that fight if Makachev is able to achieve what he wants to at that division. Um, I think that it's very unfortunate that we're not getting that fight because of this dynamic. Because right now, generally when you have someone this dominant, you have a couple of people that are like the next ones who it's like, oh well, that could be competitive. That there are dynamics here because in this fight, you saw a guy who prides himself on his jujitsu. I mean, like, he's
Mhm.
got power in his hands, but he's a grappler, like almost first and foremost, I would say. And, went to a very competitive even in loss, a competitive grappling affair with Armin. Now, if Armin's next up, then it's like, if Oliveira may have won that fight in some people's minds, you've got this, close decision in that and striking from Armin. I wouldn't be super concerned about not against Ilya Topuria. So, like, my point when saying all of that is like you've seen the guy who had the one skill that people thought could be the thing to take Ilya out, and Ilya effortlessly walked through that. So I don't think that there's an answer as to who is going to be able to stop this man. He really might just be the next big dominant champion.
I think what's also funny to note that I just thought about is like Armin really fucked up because he missed his opportunity against Islam. And now, if he wants his opportunity at the belt, he has to go against an even scarier opponent. So,
Yeah, it's a good point. Well, I mean, yeah, Armin fucked himself royally, and he deserves every negative thing that happens to him as far as his career goes, because of that. The ramifications of that, like he will still be feeling. If he ends up getting a title shot immediately, I would honestly be a little upset about that. Like, I think he should fight one more time before he gets back to the belt. But either which way, again, it's just like it doesn't matter. It just
yeah,
doesn't matter. Whoever it is, it's the Ilya. They say the Topuria era is now. I tend to agree.
I'm in it. I love it. I do enjoy this dude not because of what he's done to the people that I love. It's just because like I genuinely understand the mystique now.
Mhm.
This, if I wasn't a fan of Alex Pajeda, I would still understand like this dude is a fucking monster right now. Like, at least
Right.
in the time that he was at, and he was knocking heads off. It's like, this dude is a problem. Ilya, being so young, being everything that I've seen him be watching him do what he's done to my favorite fighters. I mean, you can't not root for this guy to be the best. Like, if he beats Volk, Max, Charles, he better go on to be the greatest goddamn dude. I better suffer through this trauma for the greatest fighter of all time. It better not just be some slouch, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, rooting for the team that beat your team in the playoffs kind of thing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree completely. I think that he has proven that that is the case with him. That he is that guy that is going to do that. I've always said, about him and about Patty, who, of course, they had that in cage encounter, which was apparently not supposed to happen, and is not going to be the next fight, but it could still end up being. Now, who knows? We'll see what they
Mhm.
actually end up doing. But either way, I mean, it's like he has said, or what I was saying is that like until I'm proven wrong in my like going along with this line of thinking that they are putting out, buying what they're selling, like until they prove me wrong, I'm going to go with it. And with Ilya, he has not faltered. And this
100%.
and they talk about the self belief. I did an entire video on the channel about Ilya and his self belief. I don't know if that's the end all be all factor that makes him this thing that he has become, but it certainly can't hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm just the only note that I have that can even possibly be negative is that I'm very interested to see what he is going to be like if and when he does lose,
Yeah.
because with this level of self-belief, you're setting yourself up possibly for a monumental downfall, and how he navigates that loss is going to be interesting. But until it happens, this is the era that we're in, and yeah, I am here for it too.
100%.
So that is UFC 317, Topuria versus Oliveira. After talking it through, Chase, what do you think of this event?
This was fire. Unfortunately, for 317 being a pay-per-view numbered event, the names towards the bottom aren't people that stick out to you as like, man, I gotta go watch those. But if you were here to see it, this was definitely a decent event.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that it was a pretty good one, and the level of competition was worthy of International Fight Week. So I was happy about that as well.
100%.
All right. Well, we do not have another event next week. So we are going to be doing a next week's fights on the next episode of this show, but we will do a quick little preview of that just to give you a rundown of what you can expect from us to be giving our predictions for. So this next fight night is UFC Fight Night Lewis versus Teixeira. That's Derek Lewis and Taliesin Teixeira. Co-main event is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Gabriel Bonfim. Going on down, Calvin Kattar versus Steve Garcia. Nate Landwehr versus Morgan Charrier. This is a good card. Vitor
Facts.
Petrino. Yeah, Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane. Heard a lot of conversation about that fight, and Austin Lane being a heavy favorite in that one. Keep an eye on that because
No, Austin Lane is a big
oh,
dog.
excuse me. That's what I meant. I'm glad you caught me on that. Yes, Austin Lane being a heavy underdog. That might be money in the making. So just keep that in mind. Junior Tafa versus Tuco Tokos rounds out the main card. And as far as the prelims go, Max Griffin versus Chris Curtis. Nice featured prelim there. Jake Matthews versus Chidi and Jukwani. Lauren Murphy versus Eduarda Mora.
Mhm.
Kennedy and Chezuku versus Walter Walker, Mitch Ramirez versus Mike Davis, and Fatima Klein versus Melissa Martinez. That's a fire fight right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, this card is really, really good, and we will be giving all of our in-depth opinions about this card on the next episode of this show. So make sure you come back next Monday at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time to hear what we have to say about that. But as far as rounding out this episode goes, also, Chase had mentioned that the ESPY Awards had put forth their nominees for Fighter of the Year. Now, keep in mind that this goes from award show to award show. So this is coming up, I believe, this coming month. We just started July now, so this award show will be taking place in July. So this goes from July to July. So it'll be July of last year to this July. The nominees are Merab Dvalishvili, Kayla Harrison, Islam Makhachev, and Dricus du Plessis. So I thought that we could talk through these nominations and see what we thought was the correct pick here.
Well, I mean, yeah, I didn't really have too much to say about everybody else. I don't think I wanted to make an individual case for everybody, but I think the person that I think is obvious winner here would be Merab Dvalishvili. If you go July to July, he headlined the biggest UFC card, quote unquote, in UFC history with the Sphere, where he then, defended his belt again, um, against Sugar Sean O'Malley, and I think that's 2 wins in the bracket. Islam Makhachev, he has a short notice 1-day defense on there that's kind of sketchy. Dricus Du Plessis, yes, you did submit the GOAT of your division, but the Sean Strickland ones, you gotta weigh those in comparison, I think.
No, I agree. Yeah. I mean, I think that the only other person on here, if you're going July to July, would possibly be Kayla to me. I mean,
I
and
think she's just on there for, like, just so they got a woman
well,
on.
let me make the case then, though. I mean, if you're because going all the way back to last July, she would have been in the organization, I think, for maybe one fight at that point,
Would have been
maybe two.
after 300.
Would have been after 300. Okay, so she was in there for I think that would have been 2 fights, right? Because 300 I
No,
think was
Holly
her
Holm would
first.
have been her debut, so on 300.
Oh, okay. So then that's encompassing her entire career in the UFC at that point.
Well, 300 happened in March or April,
Okay, so it would have been okay. So she would
right
have the
after.
one. Yeah. So I mean, so basically, then what you're getting is her entire progression up the ladder in
Mhm.
the organization. And so my case there is that I mean, if you go now, you can't take anything aside from the fights that happened into consideration, right? But if you go from that point all the way up to her becoming the champion, she in that span of time went from a very low rank, I guess, because I guess she came in fighting ranked opponents. So, ranking off of her first win, but she had to get ranked off of that first win. So, starting off at a very low rank and ascending the entirety of the division. So, I mean,
Yeah.
like, that would be the case that I think could be made there for her. Everybody else is like people that are just already great. I mean,
Mhm.
like my choice would also be Marab. I think Marab is the logical choice of these four. But I think that Islam, like, I mean, he had already been dominant, and then the win over Moicano is just kind of not a fluke, but a fluke situation. So
Mhm.
like that doesn't really play into the cards there. You made the good points about Dricus with the Sean Strickland fight. Um, I mean, if the Hamzat fight had happened before this, then maybe, and if
Yeah.
Dricus had won that, then maybe there's a bigger case there. But like I said, I think that Islam and Dricus are both just dudes who kind of are already great. Um, and Marab is a guy who had to really like kind of prove to a lot of people his greatness. I mean, I think that people kind of knew that he was good, but they didn't know what he was truly capable of as far as how he handles himself in these fights for as long as he goes and fights with the cardio and the entertainment factors and all of those elements that like make Marab the fighter that he is. I think he makes the case pretty strongly.
Yeah, 100%. I think you made a good case for Kayla, honestly. I think that's pretty decent. If you look at it, just statistically speaking, she had 1 fight in the organization, and then she had another, and then she's the champ. I mean, that's a pretty evolutionary jump. If it was a man, you'd be like, "Holy shit, he's fucking crazy." Like, he just got the belt in 3 fights, kinda
Well,
deal.
and then also like smoking the former champ, or
Yeah.
smoking the champ at the time in the fight. I mean, that was such a dominant performance in the title fight against Juliana Pena that it was like she made that look easy. In fact, if it wasn't for the previous fight, where she actually had some decent adversity and went to decision and looked a lot more humanized in that fight. Like if she had smoked that fight as well, then I think that the case would be pretty strong, honestly, at
Mhm.
that point. Because it's like, look, she's coming in here and just mauling everybody. I mean, it's like she's not taking any damage. She's going through and doing everything she wants to do. Like she is really wrecking worlds. So if she had had that consistently throughout every fight, then I think that it would have been a very strong case. The fact that she did have some adversity in her previous fight before the title fight maybe lessens it just a little bit. But Marab has just been great throughout all of this. And also, if you take into the consideration that the second O'Malley fight is part of this equation and him finally getting a finish in there too, proving that he does have finishing ability,
Mhm.
I think that it's kind of a no brainer to me.
I agree. I 100% agree. I thought that when they put it on the poster or like when they put it on the screen, I said, yeah, Marab off rip makes the most sense to me without doing the math on it. But after the math breaks down, I still think Marab did because, yeah, he got the belt at the biggest card, the biggest venue event, whatever you want to say. Then he defends it against somebody who they say is a better wrestler than him, proves that he's the wrestling god of the division. Then proves that the people who want to say that O'Malley was injured doesn't fucking matter. I will finish him. So I think it's very clear.
Yeah, I agree. So that being said, then last year, I believe that Drekus was in the contention last year and was the one that everybody thought should get it. If I'm remembering correctly, it might have actually been Islam too. Like I think both of them might have been in contention. I'd have to go back and look at what the 2024 one was. But my point in saying that is that Sean O'Malley ended up winning the award last year, and a lot of people were like, "That's ridiculous."
Mhm.
So that being said, do you think that we will see like an Islam win it?
Kayla will win
Are
it
you
then.
thinking it's going to be Kayla? Okay, I mean we're getting into like the political aspect of
Yeah.
award shows now, but you think Kayla's going to win it out of the strong independent woman angle, or what?
Yeah,
What's
because
your
imagine Marab at the ESPYs, and now imagine Kayla at the ESPYs. I think you're clear cut who you want on stage representing the sport. So Kayla's probably the one.
all right? Well, I mean, do you think that maybe they give it to Islam based on pound for pound?
No, they don't care about that shit. Nobody even knows what a P for P is, kind of deal. So
Mm, yeah, I mean, the ESPYs and ESPN has been notoriously underinformed as to the sport of mixed martial arts. So it wouldn't surprise me if there is a situation like that.
I
Uh,
mean, you
I,
could even see shit where they don't even account in the right things. It's like, oh, they give it to Kayla Harrison because she got the women's champ. It's not because she had the growth in the sport, or they gave it to Marab because he hosted the Sphere. They could just do something stupid like so.
well, that's why I would think that if they were going to go a kind of alternative reasoning, it would be for Makachev just because he's been so dominant for so long and has
Mm,
achieved the pound for pound status over John Jones, who at the time was before all of what we now know happened with John Jones, like the last Makachev fight, that was the conversation: is he number one pound for pound over John Jones? And finally getting Dana to admit that, maybe that plays a little bit of a factor in their minds.
true, true. I can hear that. I can hear you.
So I don't know, but I think the sad runner up on all of this is Drekus, because I just don't think that there's anything that they will latch onto to make the
He
case for him.
I mean, he beat Izzy. He submitted the once GOAT of the division, the pound for pound, whatever, at a time. So I think there could be a case for him. I think Islam has the least of the case, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean it's been dominance and then also fighting guys who
Featherweights.
yeah. I mean, there's I think like like I said, it could be a situation like Leonardo DiCaprio in the Oscars when they gave him the award for the Revenant, even though the movie wasn't that great or the performance wasn't like the most amazing, whatever. But like they just needed to give him an award because he'd been around for so long.
That's a hot take. First off, the movie was pretty fucking solid. I think what you mean to say is they finally gave Leo the award just because they never gave him one.
That's
They were
what,
like,
yeah.
this is the movie that they need to give it. It's because like it's decent enough that it makes sense, but it's like not horrible enough where it's like, why the fuck did he get it on that one?
There you go. Better said than what I said. Yes, that's what I meant. So yeah, I mean, I think that there's a potential for that to be the case because it's like, man, this guy Islam Makhachev. Plus, if you want to go the political route, giving it to a Muslim fighter could be, woke. To an extent. I mean, if that's the way that they're looking
Yeah.
at things, you got a woman and you've got a Muslim. You got Marab, who is a personality, but doesn't have any of those attributes, and then you've got Drekus, who you want to talk politics as far as it being a white South African, that gets into a territory that I don't think they want to touch with the 10-foot pole.
I think also Caleb gives off this like philanthropist kind of perception kind of deal. Like she's for the people. She's the single mom raising her sisters. Whatever you want to say. I think they'll latch onto that so easy.
All right. Well, so then, I mean, I have the ability, I believe, to vote here on this. So
Uh-oh.
shall I? I'm going to click Marab. But do you want me to vote as to who we believe that should get it, or who we think is going to get it?
I don't know if it's gonna give us a percentage on like what we vote. I think we should vote on what we believe on who we think should get it and see if they screw us over.
Okay, well then I will click this.
And
Do we get a percentage? I don't know, because I hadn't voted
probably
on
not.
anything else. Because okay, we
Nope.
do not. All
Nope,
right.
that's all right. Oh, well,
Um,
actually, let's do this one real quick. Let's do this one. Just a
the
quick
best
little talk.
boxer.
Yeah, it's a combat sports thing.
Sure.
Clarissa Shields definitely cannot be her because she's fucking running from Cyborg.
Oh well, let me read them out just real
Oh,
quick
yeah,
then
sorry,
for
sorry, go ahead.
everybody if we're going to do this. Yeah, so this is for best boxer. It's Clarissa Shields, Alexander Usyk, Katie Taylor, and Anuya Inoue.
So Clarissa Shields is somebody who's running from the bouts with Cyborg. Cyborg wants to compete in MMA. Clarissa wants to compete in boxing because she's worried about MMA. She cannot be the best boxer if whatever you want to say. Maybe she can in somebody's eyes, not in my opinion. Alexander Usyk literally beat the goat of the sport twice, right? There was two of them in this span, I
Mhm.
believe, is what it
Yep.
was. So I think this one's pretty cut and dry against Katie Taylor, who clear robbery against Amanda Serrano, I think is her name.
Yes, that
That
is
was one of the
egregious.
worst boxing decisions, and I don't even watch boxing, but the fact that they set up a trilogy that I'm about to have to see for 2 weeks on my Netflix page, just because of her being on this fucking page right here, definitely X'd out. And then don't even know the last guy. So I'm
Yeah.
taking Usyk. It
I
doesn't
mean,
even not even close.
yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, in a way, is definitely like he should be in that conversation. I think he's definitely of the caliber of the conversation. And again, if you're just taking it in the time frame that they're doing this, yeah, Alexander Usyk is a clear and far ahead favorite than all of these people. There's no two ways about it, in my opinion. I mean, he has done so much in that sport. Like we talk a lot in when it comes to MMA about like the guys who are out there like trying to like that want to be the best and are fighting to like sharpen their skills and have a point to prove. I want to be the best fighter in the world and that is my goal. Usyk is one of those guys. Like he took a crazy purse deduction to make the first Tyson Fury fight happen. Like Tyson Fury holds all the cards, because he's the big star. So he was like saying, "Oh, I'll do it, but you have to you come in at like 30. I want like 60% of your purse or something." Like it was some ridiculous demand that no one on the planet would have agreed to if they were only fighting for money. And Usyk said, "Whatever you want, I'll do it. I want to fight
Yeah.
you. I want to win." And then he ended up winning. He is I'm not the hugest boxing guy myself, obviously. Also, like it's very rare that I will commit to watching boxing like intentionally. But when it comes to what I do know of the sport, I know Alexander Usyk, and I know that he is he's legitimately great.
Yeah, and the only other case that you could make, and I think there's not even a case unless you're a blind person, is the Curl who was the undercard of the Jake Paul match, who completely robbed her opponent. I mean, that's the only other way you can look at the only other option in this. So,
Yeah, I mean, Clarissa Shields, I think probably has a little bit of a better case aside from the running from Cyborg aspect of things.
mhm.
But Cyborg is boxing now, so I mean, I don't know why she wouldn't just fight her in boxing.
Yeah, who knows? But either way, yeah, vote for Usyk, and I think we're done with these
Close
little
this
things.
on out. Yeah, Usyk is this is such an easy one. No brainer there. Um, let's
Let's
see if
see.
what the last thing is here. If it's any okay, and that goes
Nope.
into soccer. All right.
Damn.
And that'll do it. Yeah. And just to be clear, everybody. So this little voting thing has 22 pages to it. We were on page 20 when we made the first vote there. So
Mhm.
everything else for the ESPYs has nothing to do with combat sports. The two things that we voted on were the only representations of combat sports for the ESPYs.
Hell yeah, and I'm
Uh,
glad we got to go into them because they brought it up on the screen, and it was something that I wanted to have an opinion about, so I'm glad we got to have a full-length discussion about it.
Same. And I guess that is a good way for us to end this here episode. Of course, as we had said, we did a very brief rundown of the event. So make sure you tune in next week, a week from today, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, next Monday. We will be going to do a next week's fights, or, the fights coming up will be us doing predictions. So we will have an in-depth breakdown of all of those fights so that we can give you our informed opinions, and then you can hold us to it as far as what we get right and what we get wrong. So tune back in with us for that. Of course, I would say that you can watch us on our individual watch alongs. You won't be able to do that this weekend, but Chase, I know you can still tell them where they can when there are fights.
Yes, every Saturday that there are fights in the UFC, you will catch me on youtube.com slash at CP Smalls. And in this moment, I want to interject and thank everybody for getting me to 500 subscribers. We have definitely reached a goal that has been on my mind for a while now. So we just need you guys to watch it a little longer so we can get these watch hours up. And then we are on to beautiful, beautiful things. So in the meantime, catch me on Twitter, keeping you updated on everything at x.com/creativeparton, PARTIN, and I appreciate everybody for the subscriptions.
Absolutely. Congratulations, Chase. That's a huge accomplishment. And I'm very proud of you for that as well. You can find me at youtube.com/@ Yama Show. I am Yama Show on Twitter and Instagram as well. Don't know where my subs are at the moment, but somewhere hopefully in that range. If I'm not at 500, then get me there too. That would be
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
So, do that and make sure that you're following everywhere. We are simulcasting to Twitch, Kick, and Trovo as well. Watch alongs for every UFC event, generally with the Vitz King. Sometimes he can't be there now. So you can definitely find me if you enjoy hearing me yap. So thank you very much for watching, guys. Appreciate it. As always, the support has been tremendous and we really, really do appreciate it. So until we see you next time, have a great rest of your night, great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.